Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Appreciation Podcast. I am your host, Nick, and as always, I am joined by my scrumptious co-hosts.
They get more interesting every time, don't they?
By the time we hit the fourth year, bro, I'm going to be, really dragging the chain.
Make words up by that point.
It's going to be like compounds and all sorts. So how are we doing, gentlemen? This is our first episode of year 2. Big stuff.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, exciting.
Oh my god.
We started a month or 2 months into 2023.
But this is episode 13. So it's the 13th month,
Feels like ages since we did episode 12.
It was like
a month and a half.
Yeah, it's been longer than usual. And the reason it's been longer than usual is because we wanted to wait because we're starting year 2 off with the biggest bang that one could start off a second year of a podcast. What are we doing?
We are doing Dune or June. We had a discussion about this earlier, but it doesn't really matter. Dune Part 2. Obviously, Denis Villeneuve directing it.
It's a little indie movie that people may have heard of.
And if you hadn't figured, it's the second installment in the trilogy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it is absolutely amazing. I think that is the best way to start the discussion. It's a very strong sequel to the first one.
Yeah. So we were talking about this, and it's literally the marketing team has already picked up on this. Like if you look at their Instagram for this film, they are calling it the once in a generation kind of movie that comes along that everyone watches and everyone loves, and it's like this sort of defining moment in cinema and pop culture. And I honestly think that's a fair. I mean, from what I've seen so far in terms of the response and just how everyone is seeing this movie, and I don't think I've met one person who had something negative to say about it.
No. Well, the way I see it immediately is you go, okay, so the first huge one in the fantasy genre or sci-fi fantasy is Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
20 or so years later, fantasy Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
20 years later, Dune.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm looking at it, and that's the way Dune 2 should be received.
What I said to my sister to go watch it with me when I watched it a second time was I was like, she had like maths assignment to do or something. And I just said to her,
Doesn't matter.
Do you want to have your Empire Strikes Back right now or not? And she's like, okay, I'll come.
I mean, and we never really anticipated this because Dune 1 was more liked than disliked. But I don't think anyone sort of anticipated the Dune, because it is going to be a trilogy. It's not been officially confirmed, but it's like almost being confirmed. Yeah. And now that this movie is making a frickin' fortune, it'll definitely happen. But this is our modern day epic. We were kind of born, or not even born, when Lord of the Rings came out. Like it had just come out. And that was huge. And that defined that generation. And then as you mentioned, Star Wars defined that generation. And this is our modern day epic thing.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, forget the box office even. The critical and public reception and liking to it is incredible.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. No. Spider-Verse has had its moments.
Yeah.
That's the only thing comparable in terms of, reception. Yeah. That I can recall since I've been an avid lover of film.
Well, I mean, I remember when Everything Everywhere came out, that was universally acclaimed, but I mean, it's just not on the same level as this in terms of popularity, but also as it's gone on, it's still thought of as an incredible movie, but it's not as big as it once was. As time goes on, I don't think everything will get bigger.
This will be talked about for ages.
This will be talked about possibly forever, this movie. It will just, and it's just getting bigger and bigger by the day, because more and more people are seeing it, more people are talking about it.
And like Star Wars, the richness of it comes from how deep the lore is as well.
Yeah.
I think what will happen with Dune is that people will stop even talking about the movies. They'll just be talking about, obviously because the books exist as well, but just how interesting the world is. People who watch Star Wars, most of the time they're talking about stuff that's not even happened in the movies. Yeah. But that's what makes the movies even greater. It's this big world that you feel like you're a part of. And I think that's what is part of what makes this movie so strong, is there's so much to build off from.
I am nervous though, because in a way, although I feel like this might get turned into a modern day Star Wars thing.
In terms of spin-offs, etc.
And I really am not interested in spin-offs. Yeah. I want the third movie. I want Denis to make Messiah, and he's already written the script, or he's almost finished writing the script. So it's going to happen. But he has said that he will not do another one after the third, no matter what, which I think is good. and it has a lot of artistic integrity, but I just can't see like these films are so specifically Denis, and I think he so perfectly understands this universe that giving it to somebody else, it'll just feel different. And like if you go watch a TV show, or like if they adapt the third Dune book or something into a new trilogy, you'll kind of be like,
keep Disney away from the rights.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's just because this is Warner Brothers, and they are actually doing some good shit. They are also the ones who did the Batman and the Batman Part 2.
The Suicide Squad.
Yeah, like they're actually making good things, like good properties.
Just ignore the Flash.
Yeah, but that was from a time begone.
Goddamn Flash.
But no, they're actually putting care into their blockbusters. And that's why it's kind of sad that this is why, in a part, people love this movie so much, is because it's an actual film. Like, this cinematography in it is some of the best cinematography I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The CGI looks incredible because there's a lot of practical stuff going on. The costumes, the lore, and even though there's so much sweeping action that's just as epic as anything you've seen in Star Wars or in Lord of the Rings or whatever it is, there's more. It's still almost an artsy movie. You know, there's some there's still some stuff where it gets really existential and really weird, and it's still very dreamy, and like it's keeping with what the book is, to my understanding. I haven't read the book.
Yeah, none of us have, hey.
No, but we all might.
At least the first two.
I mean, honestly, coming out of the theater was like, damn, this world I just want to be in for the rest of my life, bro. I just want to be thinking about it. It's so interesting. And because like it's like the story itself as well is very interesting. It's not like just the world itself, but like what's the story that he's trying who wrote the book, Frank Herbert?
Yeah.
That he's trying to tell is very interesting because it's not like a standard story where it's like this guy saves the day and it's all easy going. Like Paul is supposed to be this guy who has to make fucked up decisions. Like he has to make bad decisions to do good. And I think that is so interesting. And I think like his journey is super interesting. Like compared to like Luke Skywalker. Well, it's way more interesting than Luke, I think.
Some people, and when I say this, they say this loosely because obviously it's not like this, but people have characterized this almost like space Game of Thrones. And it's because like it's designed in a similar way. There's houses. There's an emperor that rules over all the houses, which is just like how Game of Thrones is structured.
Yeah.
But the main thing with Game of Thrones and why Game of Thrones is so awesome, because it was kind of an answer to Lord of the Rings. And this is not me like shitting on Lord of the Rings. But Game of Thrones was written because it was like George R. R. Martin didn't like the fact that it was just clean-cut good guys and bad guys. And the good guys always do the right thing. The bad guys always do the wrong thing. And in Game of Thrones, all the characters are so grey. And when they try to do good or what they think is good, it might actually objectively be very bad or whatever. And that's what this movie is. I mean, there are the bad guys. Like the Harkonnens are the bad guys. No one's going to watch it and go, oh, the Harkonnens are like good people. But Paul himself is a very grey character. And his kind of whole thing, he's forced to do something that people around him thinks is good and actually is terrible, which is just so fascinating for him as a character.
Well, I feel it's a testament to Denis and his ability to adapt a screenplay from the book.
Yeah.
If this tension and the noticeable, I guess, hardship in the decisions Paul has to make, and not just Paul, but the people around him, Paul's mother, etc., as well, who's a very fascinating character. The whole Ben and Gesserit, I guess, line or. So fascinating, but yeah, to be able to adapt something from a book so well and have such a success in doing it, not many directors can do that.
And I think all of not only that, but he is so good at somehow. This is such a huge film. There's so much stuff happening, and I thought the first one was big, but the first one is like. It's like nothing compared to this. It looks like a toddler movie. It's like basically nothing happens in that movie compared to the amount of stuff that's happening in this. You've got all the politics with the Harkonnens. You've got the Bene Gesserit scheming. You've got the Emperor and his daughter. You've got Paul or whatever. You've got all this stuff that's happening. And yet all the characters, or at least the main characters, are all so distinctive. You've got Stilgar, amazing character. Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
You've got Lady Jessica, amazing character. Paul Atreides, amazing character. The Harkonnens are all different and interesting. And I'll say this, my favorite character across the two movies is still the Baron.
Really?
The Baron is my favorite character.
The Baron.
When he's on screen, I am so just drawn to him. He is such a he's so gripping as a character to me. He is like a typical villain, and there's not a great deal of depth to him, but he is so interesting to watch. And I find him just so gripping.
The Emperor.
No,
The
Baron.
The Baron. Sorry, the Harkonnen leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ugly motherfucker.
The fat guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's amazing.
That's interesting.
Who actually plays the Baron?
Stellan Skarsgård. Who is he's so good at it. He's so amazing.
It's a famous name in cinema, right?
The Skarsgård.
Is he related?
Yeah, he is. Okay. Alexander and Bill are his sons.
Right. Okay. But I want to mention quickly that you said there's so much going on, but it doesn't take away from the times where it's quiet.
No.
Or the times where they're lingering on shots or plot lines that need to be developed. It's not always in your face, overbearing, huge, cinematography and I guess action. It is still a movie that is very well considered, and how it's portrayed.
Yeah.
Which I think when a lot of people hear it's an epic,
Yeah.
they don't think that. But this really is, I guess, it's multifaceted in how well it's constructed.
Yeah, it's perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
I think the on first viewing, the one thing that I felt in terms of the balance of like the script that might have been a bit off was when they cut to the Baron's nephew. What's his name?
Fade.
Federata.
Yeah.
What a fucking cool
And they
character.
spend, I think it's 18 minutes, around 18 minutes, 20 minutes, just on his storyline.
Yeah.
That sort of feels like, oh, they've taken us out of it. But on second viewing, it's like it goes quick, and it is necessary to set up like what the Bene Gesserit do in the sense that they go around and they're doing like
In a way.
maths to figure out who's the best option.
In a way, that whole sequence is actually more to set up Margot or whatever. That was,
that's no 100%.
Leia Seydoux' character,
Yeah.
because she'll probably be in. You assume she'll be in the third
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like Florence Pugh. Like I also felt, well, I didn't necessarily feel it, but it was like she wasn't in the movie that much. On first viewing, it was like, oh, she's not really in it. She's not really doing anything. But on second viewing, she's in it more than you think anyway. But she's like in like the end of each act basically.
Yeah.
And she's kind of just there so that you know that she exists. So that in the next movie that she can be an actual character.
But that is literally the exact same thing that happened with Zendaya in the first one. Zendaya was just used as that, and you knew that she was coming. And that's how, like, Florence has been open about that in the marketing. Like, because again, we don't know if the third one's happening. It's going to happen. And that's what's going to happen because she's a major player apparently in Messiah, which will be the third one. But yeah, like in this one, Chani, which is Zendaya, she's like the other main character basically. But in the first one, she was barely in it. But I think that's fine. It works because it's building the entire grand scale of the story because you're eventually going to get that. Yeah. Eventually, you're going to be able to do what Marlon and I did a while ago, which is you go and watch all of Lord of the Rings in one sitting at the theater. We did that.
It's going to be incredible.
And Dune, that's what it's going to be. The Dune trilogy, you'll be able to sit there and in one long sitting, you'll be like, oh, Florence Pugh, like you'll see her in 5 minutes in the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a criticism I heard, which I didn't really, like I don't really care because I don't think it was a problem, was people were saying that the Emperor as a character was underused. But a couple of things. One is that the book people, again, we haven't read the book, they say that he's barely in the book either. And he's basically just used as this sort of pawn character just so that Paul is able to work around him and become the Emperor himself. But he's just that character who needs to put the Harkonnens against the Atreides.
The thing as well, though, is that
he's just a MacGuffin
he also is just kind of a puppet because the Bene Gesserit tell him what to do.
The power dynamic
He's not really
between
the
Bene Gesserit and the actual like figurehead leaders is so interesting.
Yeah, the Bene
to
Gesserit
me.
are the people who are really controlling how things go. And that's like, even with Paul, is like they basically made a bet about how things would go in the future.
Yeah.
And obviously Paul is like ruining their entire thing because they're like, what the hell? This isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So maybe let's I want to go through it like act by act.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the first act it's basically just Paul and he's learning how to become Fremen.
Yeah.
And that ultimately ends, I'm pretty sure, when he finishes riding the worm and he's like, wow. He's like leading the fight or whatever. They start like making victories against the Harkonnens. So what do we think of the first act? What do we think of the start of the movie? Give us the thoughts.
So it sort of starts off with Florence Pugh giving the rundown.
Yeah.
And I think that it is good because obviously, like myself, I hadn't rewatched the original one.
Yeah.
So it sort of gets you in the movie pretty well. And I think the movie does a great job of exploring Paul and his journey into becoming Fremen, but also like his thinking, you know? Like obviously he wants to just be a part of the Fremen. He just wants to be one of them. He doesn't want to become this messiah figure because in his, you know, limited visions, he sees obviously suffering and he doesn't want to like have that happen. But also I think from a sort of moral standpoint, he doesn't believe he should be their leader because obviously he's an outsider. He isn't like from within. So I think that was really interesting to sort of set up that so that in the next act they can break that down.
Well, yeah, and it's also because I don't think he's ever, and I don't think in the first one either, he's never really presented as someone with an ego.
Yeah.
Or wanting to lead. I mean, that's the first major conversation he has with his dad in the first one, is on the hills or whatever. And he says, I don't think I like am going to be the new leader of House Atreides. Like, you know, I don't think so, Dad. I don't think it's for me. And his dad's like, it's all chill, bro.
Dameron.
Yeah, but then, and you see that because he holds the ring. That's still a thing that happens throughout the film. And then he puts it on at the end when he's like, I'm the Duke of Arrakis and all this sort of stuff. Oh, it's so good.
I find it trouble breaking up the film in parts because I just didn't look at it like that.
It's very connected.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like I'm not sure where your part one ends.
Well, the way I would separate the movie.
Well, my part one would end when they cut back to Florence Pugh and she's like, Fade Ratha, and they introduce Fade Ratha.
Yeah.
That would be the end of the first chunk
where
of
the
movie.
Black Sun comes in.
So you can sort of separate it sort of by like what plot is happening. But I think you can also just split it. Like you can have when before Paul becomes like enlightened and after. I think there's a way more interesting way to do it.
Yeah, I think
because the way the movie's set up is it isn't like Paul has the water of life and then it's like a, you know, this slow process of him thinking things through and changing his thought process, which was originally I was like, damn, they didn't show that at all. But on second viewing, it's very intentionally instant because now he sees everything.
Yeah.
He is now a completely different person. He's not the same guy from the first movie or even the Fremen. Or the first half, he's a different person.
Well, that's what people. That was another criticism I heard. Is people like, I can't really buy into the fact that he would be so obsessive now about becoming this leader. And I'm like, he's just been given like universal sight.
Yeah,
he can see the past, present,
and it's not
future.
like he wants to be the leader.
He's become Bran.
He has to be.
He's
become Bran out of Game of Thrones.
He sees the golden path, and the golden path includes him becoming the leader.
He's the Doctor Strange of.
Nah, it's more interesting than Doctor Strange.
I know, but it's the easiest way to explain it for someone who hasn't seen it.
He's like Bran in Game of Thrones. You need to watch Game of Thrones.
But there's one way through.
Yeah, he even does like the.
Yeah, I know. That was very cool. He's going.
Yeah, he's like selecting things.
He sees like every possible.
But
it was incredible.
The thing that's interesting is like that the fact that he can see what he needs to do, and obviously the fact that he's not, you know, a hero means that he's going to have to do a lot of bad.
Yeah.
I think that's what's interesting is it's like, does the bad stuff that he has to do to result in good, is that justified? And I think that is what is interesting about it. And the other question is, obviously, you know, he has a sense of self because he existed before he was the Messiah type figure now who can see the future and stuff.
Yeah.
So how does that impact his decision making? Because it's not like he's now like no longer human at all.
Well, I think, and that's partly the tragedy of his characters. I mean, you've got that amazing scene where he has that duel with Fade Ratha, which is one of the best scenes in the movie. But right after, I don't remember if it was right after or right before, but he says to Chani, I will always love you forever, like you mean everything to me. And then he immediately goes, I'm going to marry Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
And so you can tell that he's still got his humanistic side to him, but at this point, I think he's matured more. Maybe in a not naturally, he's now taken this water of life thing, but he's gone, I need to do this so I can, this golden path or whatever. But he's not completely now pushing aside and neglecting his normal humanistic feelings.
The only thing though, I think with that though, is that I feel like that's because he can see the future and that's still part of it. Like,
yeah,
I think that's the question.
Chani's a character that he can lose or a person he can lose in his relationship.
Yeah, I think it's essential to the golden path still. I think everything he does from now on is him trying to follow that path.
But that's a sign of it's the signposting, trying to let her know that.
Yeah, what he's about to do.
Yeah, and unfortunately she can't.
But he says that he sees that she comes around.
Yeah,
so
but at the time she can't see it and she leaves. And
I know we'll get back to what we're talking about, but I just want to make a special note of this to make sure we don't miss it. But just thinking about Chani and the ending, the music of this film is some of the most epic. Hans Zimmer, bro, full knows his stuff.
When he learns how to ride the worm, I'm sitting in the chair and I'm vibrating. I'm like, oh my God. Like I felt like I was on the world
Dude,
myself.
the song, the one when they're sort of falling in love,
A time
type
of
song.
quiet between the storms. Holy shit.
Crap! But the
right?
ending, the song "Kiss the Ring" is seriously one of the most epic pieces of music I've heard.
Is that the
composed.
other one with the love theme in it? Or is
Yeah, but it's the one where it's more grand, and it's at the end where Zendaya is getting on. It's like the end of the movie,
Yeah,
and it's going
playing in the credits.
It's just so fantastic. Anyway,
Yeah, well, I think the score had a tribal and native feel
yeah,
to it, which this is just reading from my notes, but it supports one of the key themes of displacement and invasion throughout the film, and the first as well with the Fremen.
I think this film's also not only about that displacement thing; it's saying so much about religion.
Yeah.
This is such an interesting film to explore religious wise,
And how religion is used.
how it can be weaponized.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's so good. Because my other favorite character after the Baron in this movie was Stilgar, Javier Bardem.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was just the most fantastic
He was
character.
so funny.
And he's really good in the first one, and he's barely in it. But in this one, he's actually a pretty tragic character when you think about it, because he, more than anyone, is purporting, even more than Jessica, he's purporting Paul's Liazan Al Gaib thing. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, listen, I got you.
Lisa Al Gaib. He was just so fantastic. And like, I loved it. Got the biggest laugh in my theater, which was good that there were actually was comedy in it, because otherwise it would have been a
He
pretty
was so
dour.
funny, bro.
Like when he talks to his mates and he goes, he is so humble.
Yeah. As written.
As written, it's clearly him. And he's so humble.
It made me think of like just like anything with Jesus.
Well, it's like the amount of, I know neither of you have TikTok, but the amount of skits that have been made out of Stilgar's character in the last week,
Yeah.
are essentially, it's like, Paul shits in a toilet. Listen, right? It's like he is such a comedic character, but at the same time is, as you said, incredibly serious in nature in the role he plays in the film. And
Well, he's one of the most religious characters,
Yeah.
of course, and his character can be explored if you were doing some sort of like a religious reading of the film.
Yeah.
Which I just think is so epic, because the best science fiction or whatever best story should explore really humanistic, powerful truths. And this film explores everything. It's exploring war.
Or he's getting Tarkovsky and all this.
It's getting
facts, honestly.
It's getting war. You're getting colonization type thing, or you're getting religion. You're getting, and I think a reason, like especially for men, why this one is probably so, I don't know what the word would be, relatable, or like it hits them. You know what I mean? Like it's a powerful film. Is the call of destiny. Like dudes love that shit. When you watch a movie and it's like some guy and he's fulfilling his destiny, like every single dude I know would have watched the scene where Paul stands up on the hill, wind's blowing, that thing blows up, and he's standing there with his knife in the air. Every dude was going, that's literally me.
Yeah. Dude,
I'm literally Paul Atreides.
dude, I just need to drink the water of life and I would literally be him.
Bro.
I'm so close.
as foreseen.
As foreseen. The thing I find interesting though as well about like Paul's whole visions, and also the fact that the religion, or at least the Lisan Al Gaib whole thing,
Muad'Dib.
is that that's all made up by the Bene Gesserit. Everything is scripted, and so his visions aren't like of the future because of what is actually real and what's going to happen. It's because it's like those things need to happen in order for him to become the Messiah. So it's like, rather than the prophecy being a real thing, it's like it becomes real because it needs to be for him to do what he needs to do.
For the greater good.
Yeah. And like that is so awesome. It's such an interesting concept.
But that's, I think, and as well, these, like, obviously I keep saying the third movie is going to happen, but as a combination, like say the third movie never gets made, this would still be an incredibly satisfying duology.
dude, honestly.
And the reason why it's so satisfying is because you look at the first movie, and the first movie essentially sets up all of these pillars that Paul needs to knock down. And when you get to the last act of this movie, that's what's happening. You know, like she, what is her name? The Reverend Mother, who works for the Emperor, the head Bene Gesserit.
Don't know her name.
Don't know her name,
Is
but
her name
she,
even in it?
Probably.
I'm sure it's right here. Hold on.
I just
I
think
can tell
it's
you.
called Reverend Mother.
Mohim. Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohim.
There you
Yeah, I
go.
don't
Reverend
know.
Mother.
Don't
Reverend
know if
Mother.
that ever gets.
Whatever.
The Reverend Mother of Reverend Mothers.
Yeah.
We'll just call her the Reverend Mother
there's-
because Jessica, I just keep calling Jessica.
Yeah,
I'm not
you
going to call her
yeah.
something else. So she, like at the start of the first movie, she makes Paul do that hand in the box
Yeah.
thing, and she says silence.
Yeah.
And And then when Paul goes, silence!
That was so cold, man.
It was
and
like
she's shaking, man.
And she calls him an abomination. And I was just like, damn, son.
Bro, she's like, Paul Atreides, you should think about what you're doing. He goes, silence. It's so good, man. It is so cold.
Because, and that's why, and I think possibly the most interesting character in the movie is actually Jessica. Jessica had so much shit going on with her, and she low-key is kind of a villain.
Oh, yeah, no, she is.
Absolutely.
She absolutely is. Which is a bizarre thing because I found her quite sympathetic in the first one because she is a devout person to the faith, but she did go against it because she did love Leto, Duke, Oscar Isaac, loved him and actually went against the Bene Gesserit because they're always supposed to bear daughters, but she made a son and that's Paul, and Paul's now being taught the ways of the Bene Gesserit, which is like the abomination, you know. So she clearly has this very sympathetic side or whatever. And, you know, she was crying in the first one after Leto died and everything like that. But then she's kind of realized, and again, this is the weaponization of religion. She's realized she can achieve so much. And she can essentially overthrow the Bene Gesserit through propaganding the idea of Paul as the Elias al-Gaib. And so by the end, she's become quite a villainous presence. You're like, bro, you're kind of the cause of all this shit.
My one question is like, what are the Bene Gesserit's goals? It's just ultimate power? Because that's like that. What's that thing that there's a term they have? It starts with like a K, something dumb.
I can't remember.
But the reason I asked,
I forget what their ultimate goal is, though.
Yeah, because there's like they want this ultimate power, and it has a name.
Don't they want to create the ultimate person?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's like it starts with a K. I can't remember what they call it, but because Jessica says to Paul that you'll become it when you do the water of life.
The Kwisatz Haderach.
Kwisatz. Yeah, that's the one. Kwisatz Haderach.
To gain enough power to unite the houses and produce a superhuman that will save humanity.
Yeah, okay, so they do want to save humanity because that's
what they keep trying to do through the houses.
And that's why when she says to Jessica, like when she says, "Oh, you chose the wrong side," and then she goes, "You of all people should know there are no sides." I was wondering if, like, because obviously I didn't know when I first watched the movie the law at all.
Yeah.
But I read up on it, and that makes sense because.
That's why I got to read the book.
But that's what's so
to understand this.
That's what's so interesting about all of this is that both the Bene Gesserit and Paul, they want to save humanity, but the Bene Gesserit are like, I'm pretty sure in the book they actually have like computers or something. Like that's how they work out what to do. But anyway, they have their calculations of however they think is the best way to do it. But they're obviously slightly off. Hence why Paul is able to disrupt their plan.
Yes.
But whereas he can see it.
Yeah, he can see it. He can literally see it.
And
but
so
the thing is, can he see it in a sense where it's like he can actually see the future, or is his brain like a supercomputer and he can just go through like all the counterfactual situations, like if this happens then this? I don't actually know.
I don't think so. I think it must be just a past, present, future thing.
So I think it's like in a real sense.
I think it's a destiny. It's like this is going to happen if you do this.
What makes, as you've brought up, so interesting is you've got two people that ultimately want the right thing pitted against each other.
Yeah.
Which sets up Messiah really
well. That's the thing. Like Jessica doesn't want the right thing.
No, but then you've got a rogue one.
Yeah, but because Jessica, I think, probably feels a little bit guilty or maybe a little bit suppressed by the Bene Gesserit cause, and like there's all that conflict with her and Paul afterwards, where Paul's like, "You made me into a freak," and all this stuff in the first one, and you know she's remorseful of that fact, and she's kind of because now she is the Reverend Mother of the Fremen, who have. They prove very quickly that they're the most powerful army in space.
God damn, they're
because that's the thing. Other people were like, "Oh, the battle was so anticlimactic, bro. You dumb." That's the whole point.
Yeah, the whole point is that Paul has seen what is going to happen. He knows that that they're going to win. That's like not the point.
Yeah,
but it's not. But it's not also that. But it's like what you realize is this whole time, if the Fremen united, they would have been able to overthrow the Harkonnens in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
but it's because they needed this figure to bring them together.
Who also knew about the
because
Harkonnens.
there was millions of people south, and they were never with them because the southern people were like, "Why would we go north?"
Well, yeah, they're fundamentalists. They're very religious.
That's right.
People.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Well, we're just going to keep sitting here waiting for Paul."
But
which is part of the whole thing about using religion to oppress people, because that meant that they weren't going to. Like, say Paul never came along, which he wasn't supposed to.
Do anything.
They would never have revolted.
No.
It would never have happened. So it's like, it's really interesting to see how religion can be weaponized.
But I think that ending as well, that big battle, I found it satisfying because of how easy it was.
Well, yeah, but
they just went in and were like, "We own this shit. It's done. 2 seconds."
Like, I think
what is that they call it? Desert power. It's like we will fucking show you our fucking.
But
power.
I think it's like you should never have been like, "Wow, there's a chance we might lose here. Like, you know they're going to win. Paul has literally seen how it unfolds.
Yeah.
And the Fremen are also have been shown to just destroy everyone. So it's not like you should be at all like, oh my God.
Expecting a proper battle.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen. It's not the battle that's interesting. It's like what's going to happen after the battle. That is what you want to know.
That's right.
You want to know what unfolds after the fact.
Which brings you to one of the most incredible shots of a sword fight, or just a one-on-one.
How good is all the action, really? It's all great.
Well, also, so I want to say this. I think this might be one of the best shot movies ever made.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, so Greg Fraser is an Aussie. He's an Aussie. And he has done Dune 1 and 2, and he did The Batman. So this guy, and The Creator. So this guy knows his shit.
Yeah, okay.
This guy makes dope movies. And I think the reason is because I was realizing this because I watched Ferrari not too long ago.
You did Rogue One as well.
Yeah, that's the best part of that movie as well. The cinematography in that movie is the best part.
Yep.
I was watching some Michael Mann movies recently, Heat and Ferrari. And I was picking this up, I was talking to my stepdad about it, which was that in those movies, there's all this sweeping action and everything, but there's also tons of close-ups. And so the movie somehow feels intimate whilst being on this grand scale. And I think Batman is just like that, and these Dune movies, especially this one, is like that. There are some of the biggest shots you'll ever see. The shots of Paul standing in front of millions of people, the three sandworms. Which, when you think about it, that is such a wide view of what you're seeing, because those worms are fucking enormous. They're like...
Paul's a dot on the screen when he's riding those...
They're enormous, you know. But at the same time, there are so many shots of Paul very carefully holding the ring and just looking at his father's ring, or just this beautiful shots of the sand just in the wind. It's still somehow contemplative. Yeah. And it's epic. That's what makes it so epic, I think, is because it's still this intimate film. You have these scenes of Paul and Chani or whatever in the tent, and they're like and it's silent. They're just having these very normal, innocent conversations, and they go out. It's not quick. You stay with them and you watch all that stuff, and then you've got these enormous action scenes where it's like, whoa.
I think what really helps as well is the colorscape. You've got this like incredibly orange, Tatooine-esque vibe. Yeah. That then clashes with a blue sky or a very orange sky itself anyway. And then, as Chani says, Dune's a wonderful place at sunset, sundown. And you've got that shot of her teaching Paul how to...
Sandwalk?
Yep. Which is my favourite shot in the whole film.
Really?
I think it is
Nice one.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Because it's got that incredible score of the love score as well.
The best love score since Across the Stars.
Dead set, pretty much. It is incredible. It is so good.
Yeah.
But it's the shadow work as well. Because most of the films are in the day, really. There's the last scene at the end with the battle.
Yeah.
And then that, pretty much.
Yep.
And not much else.
Yeah.
But it just works so well.
I think as well, you mentioned the color. I think it's kind of amazing how you go to multiple planets in this movie. You go to the Harkonnen planet, you go to obviously Arrakis, and you go to wherever the Emperor lives. And I think there's only one external shot from space, which is when the Emperor's ship is coming down at the end. The silver ball to come for the battle. There's no other shots in space. And yet you can tell you're on different planets, and they all feel completely different. And that's just through the production design, the costuming, and the colors. You can tell. The Emperor's place is all green and natural. The desert is the desert. And the Harkonnen planet, which I think is the coolest design thing.
So
we need to talk about that for a bit.
Yeah, let's do that.
The whole chunk on that planet, the Harkonnen thing, is because I was sitting there and I remember like going, I'm really enjoying this Paul thing, but like Austin Butler hasn't turned up. Where is this guy? I thought he was like the main part of this movie. Like, where has he been? And then they cut to him, and his introduction scene is fantastic. Yeah. This sort of, he just murders a couple of people, and I was just like, yeah, nice. But this arena battle that happens was so huge and epic. It put like Gladiator to shame. It was just one scene.
Bro, how weird is their culture, by the way?
But it's so awesome.
Oh, it's so creepy.
My favorite part, I think my favorite part,
dudes with like the hammerhead shark thing, and they're like,
I just find the Harkonnen so compelling, even though they don't actually get a tremendous amount of depth. I do appreciate that they still, like any family, had those internal conflicts between Rabin and Fade.
Yeah.
Rabin and Fade. You still got that, and you still got sort of what's his name, Vladimir Harkonnen, the Baron, doing stuff.
Well, I will say though, Dave Bautista's character, Rabin, I didn't really like him. I didn't enjoy his character very much.
I kind of felt he got thrown to the
It was like
curb.
it was like, you know, you just have like just make the villain look goofy, so you can then have what's his name come in.
Fade.
Fade. But I feel like it would have been way more impactful if like Rabin wasn't shown to be totally incompetent. It was like he was, you know, a pretty well organized dude who had his shit together, and he just could not handle the fact that these Fremen were like destroying everything.
I do agree with that, because I don't think there's ever a single scene of him being competent.
Yeah.
But I will say this, which is that, again, and you're the only one who didn't rewatch the first fairly recently. In the first, he is a very intimidating figure, Rabin, when he's around. And the reason is because he is competent when he's not up against something difficult. The whole point of this, and the whole reason why Paul is considered the Lisan al-Gaib, is because he's a competent leader and becomes this competent sort of war general in this fight against the Harkonnens. And so in the first one, the Fremen have no leader, so Rabin has been able to successfully occupy, you know, or whatever, and he was able to attack the Atreides unguarded and all that. So his victories were easy.
Yeah, he's never had the proper challenge.
So you've never had to see him look like a moron, even though this whole time he's been a moron. You've just not been able to tell. And him being dumb, it is a shock, but what it actually does is it reinforces how effective Paul is as a leader and a fighter, how important he is because he's making this person who's been on that planet for decades seem like a complete moron.
Well, because you also see at the start of the second, the rage of, you know, there's nothing else left here. And he smashes the guy's head. He's still intimidating at the very start of this film. But essentially, as soon as he's directly face to face with Paul, he cowers and runs away, which I think was kind of goofy.
I mean, I did think it was kind of...
Show yourself.
I thought that...
He runs
that scene was dope.
It was incredible.
When Paul came out of the... You know, the dust or whatever. But I do think at that point, Rabin should have been killed. And he just dies, and then the Baron's like, well, we should bring in Fade. I don't really know why that the Baron, other than to have this sort of brother dichotomy between Fade and Rabin, and obviously you've got
the revenge
Gurney,
Thanos.
Gurney Halleck, who kills Rabin, which was a good scene, but it was kind of like they kind of just kept Rabin alive so they could have that scene, so Gurney had something to do.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, in that moment when Paul comes out of the dust, he should have killed Rabin right then. But it doesn't ruin anything or anything like that.
Also on that scene with Gurney, that little sequence there is, I think, the worst in the entire film, because as Isaac and I mentioned while we were walking here, there is a rendering issue with the bird's eye shots of the
PS3 graphics.
Yeah, there's some buildings that just aren't rendered
but I don't
properly.
See, when I saw that, I didn't go, "Wow, that sucks." I just thought to myself, "Well, can't wait for this to come out on
Blu-ray."
Yeah, because
they'll have fixed it for the Blu-ray.
Yeah, it was so noticeable for me.
I just thought it was, I went haha, and then immediately locked it in again. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, but then
it didn't take me
out. The
out.
very next scene is the scene with Gurney.
Oh, so you were like sort of out of it a bit because of that?
No, I was sort of like, okay, I've noticed something bad. What else is bad? And that scene is kind of, I don't really care for either of the characters as much. The revenge arc's cool, but and it kind of felt pushed.
The death as well isn't like impactful. It's not like, he did it. It's just like, oh, okay.
Well, it also has no consequence on the script.
It didn't do anything.
This guy's finished this revenge arc that he's had from the first film.
Yeah. It is more of a...
Oh, that was done.
It is more of a... It is just more of the fact that the biggest event in the first movie is the whole sacking of the Atreides house, and Rabin was there, and so you're like, and now the Atreides and Fremen are sacking the place,
Yeah.
So it's a switch. It's a switcheroo kind of thing. Yeah. But I still felt more than enough satisfaction from what Paul was doing to get his revenge. I didn't need to see Gurney go off and do that. Now, it doesn't ruin it for me, and I honestly think they kind of had to write that in because Gurney would have had nothing to do. And it is true, they did need to kind of take that place back because that was the Harkonnen stronghold. So it makes sense that they went over there. So it's not like it's a negative on the movie. It's just kind of like, that was just a bit of extra that wasn't that needed, but it was whatever.
Well, in some ways, Gurney's like a father figure. It tries to be in this film.
Well, I think it's important that he's still in the film because Paul has some sort of connection to his old life.
Yeah.
Because Jessica, you can tell, is separate.
Yeah.
Her whole Bene Gesserit bullshit is completely separate to what his dad taught him, and his mentors were all from his dad. They weren't from Jessica. So Gurney, and you had Duncan, Jason Momoa, who got killed in the first one. It's kind of important that he's got some sort of connection back to his father.
A sort of something to remind him of what he's doing.
And I think that must have happened because you do see when he does that DNA thing to unlock the atomics, is he kind of does it and it's like, oh, your DNA has unlocked it. And he's kind of looks at it like, oh, wow.
This is
you see that
legacy.
you see that big Atreides signet and you go, oh. And that's when he's reminded. I think that's actually a subtly important part. Yeah. Is that moment.
But while we're on the issue, the topic of issues, I've got three others, sorry, quickly. Sometimes when Paul's switching between English and the native language, it kind of felt like there was no pattern to it, or sort of, necessity.
Which just like arbitrarily switching.
Yeah, towards the end, not towards the end, in that sort of...
There's one time when he's talking to the dude, when he's like saying like, oh, your grandmother did this.
And
he starts off in English and then goes back. And it's like, well, that guy does that guy speak English? Probably not.
Well, that's what was... It's a...
Well, the Fremen are shown to speak English.
All of them?
We hadn't been introduced
there's scenes where like Jessica is saying like some shit that's pretty dodgy and they're all like...
We haven't been introduced really to the fundamentalists yet. So we're not sure. And it kind of just felt like it was unnecessarily confusing.
But having said that, Fremen or whatever is not Paul's native language. So it probably makes when you see people whose it's not their native language, they do often switch back briefly when they don't know. Yeah. That was in That was in Anatomy of a Fall. When she was doing the court case, she would switch because she was like, I can't keep speaking French, I'm going to speak English.
It just seemed like he's shown to be competent in the language the whole way through the film, or picking up very, very, very
quick, yeah.
And it just, there was no pattern to it, and it wasn't like he was saying anything complicated. That frustrated me.
I just think it sounds cool.
It does sound
cool.
It was just a bit annoying, really. I wanted some consistency in that.
I wish that every single Fremen line, or whatever language I don't know if they named the language.
I don't know what the language is.
I just wish every line was subtitled, because there's times where they'd say something in the background. I'm like, I wish I knew what that was. Because I feel like that could have been funny.
Yeah. Some of his dialogue, Timothy Chalamet's, that is and delivery is kind of a bit awkward still.
This is something that I actually said to my brother, is that Timothy Chalamet has the worst, like, intimidating scream ever. He just sounds like an upset teenage that wants to fight his parents.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what I mean? He goes, it's just like it doesn't work. I don't know if he can't yell, if it's just not within his body, or if, I don't know. I just did not buy him as intimidating.
I just think him and Zendaya, there are very few, not many, but very few scenes where it's sort of shown that they're not at the level of the serious acting as some other lead roles that we've seen in epic films, or, the best
films. I thought Zendaya's acting was really good.
She's really good, but some of the scenes at the end where she's emotional, she's just doing the same face over and over again. It cuts back one or too many times.
But you need to remember, though, that these characters are really young. Like, they're young people.
I don't know.
Like, they're almost our age in terms of, and they're young and dumb, and yet they're in this sort of ultimate situation. I actually, Timothy Chalamet is an actor that I've not really liked most of his things. Like, I don't think he's a bad actor, but I've never really bought into why people love him so much. Paul, like, his role as Paul is the first time I've ever gone, he's a great actor. Right. And I bought it completely.
You're misunderstanding me. They're both excellent in this, but there are just couple noticeable scenes that are frustrating because if they've spent so long being really good in the film to just write it down with a couple moments. That
was for me specific. Zendaya I thought was great and everything, but that just whenever Timothy would yell, I think he does it twice in the movie. There's the one where he's yelling at his mum, and there's one where he's yelling.
He yells at the Thanos guy.
Gurney? Yeah, I thought so. He yells at both times. His voice just sounds like it just doesn't have that effect that he wants, or I assume that it was wanted, because he doesn't come across as like a guy who's frustrated and frustrated because he's knowing stuff. He just comes across as a whiny teen, and it's like.
But having said that, the thing that really solidified me for liking his portrayal of Paul is once he takes the water.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And he's the most badass person I've ever seen in my life. And I totally bought it. I totally bought everything that was happening, and him standing there on the hill with the wind and everything, and him yelling and all that. And you buy it, and you feel like he's changed as a person. And so maybe, now again, I don't know if that's an intentional thing. It probably isn't. It's probably me just being like, maybe it's actually a good, But you can think back and look at those scenes and he's like, oh, he's just a whiny teen and he's screaming. But then when he starts screaming and he's this fucking leader, it's actually impactful. Even though he's doing the same shit.
The one reason, though, that I would disagree with that is because I've heard him sort of yell in other movies and it sounds exact same. I just think that's what his voice sounds like when he yells. He's not at that, like Austin Butler can just control his voice in the most insane ways. I don't think Timothée Chalamet has that ability. Like, his voice is a lot deeper than normal in this.
Yeah.
Like, he's done really well, I think, to control his voice. I just don't think he has, like, advanced control of his screaming. Because I just don't. No, it's a hard thing to do. I don't think most people could do that shit.
I just think, well, I guess maybe, and I agree with the point. I think what I kind of mean is,
it's like half a scene and you like go.
No, but I think just maybe, I don't know. It's just
It
not.
can still work in the movie though.
It can still work in the movie.
And also to touch on what you were saying, like the switch between after he has the water of life, even like the subtle makeup, like on his eyes, hair, like to put the black, it's like that is so subtle, but you don't really notice that when you're looking at him. But you look at him, and you go, "Wow, something's changed." It does a great job of that, just being subtle and really like layering the depth to his change. It was, I don't know, it's great.
When I brought up just then the Zendaya scenes towards the end with the ascendancy, the problem I have more with that, I think, was it cut back to her one or two too many times to try and force that emotion.
During the fight or after?
After.
Yeah.
So when he says like, I'm going to take you as my bride.
And it's Florence Pugh and then Tim and then Zendaya, and it's cutting back and forth. But it keeps cutting back to Zendaya, and I know it's for a particular reason, but I feel like it's almost forcing that emotion a little bit too much. It's still a great, absolutely wonderful scene. But I just kind of got sick of seeing her face in that short span.
I don't know. It's difficult for me and with all this stuff because this movie is just so big. And I can't even remember any of these things.
There's things I noticed. Yeah,
I don't remember that.
But I was so swept
off though for me.
When I was so swept off in everything, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just kind of like,
well, this is on the second watch.
The Rabin thing I noticed on the second watch. Like, that's actually a thing to notice. Is the kind of the treatment of his character, But some of the other stuff, like that really specific stuff, like the way Timmy yells or some shit, it's just like, bro, it's just so big.
I think the reason I noticed that is because it has annoyed me previously. The way that he yells, it's something that, and like, or just like when he gets upset, the way that his voice sounds, just like, ugh.
Well, I'm just being petty here because the first time I watched it, it was, my jaw's on the floor, no need to pay for a whole seat because I'm sitting on the edge, Like, seriously, that was the whole first film, and I came out of it noticing one or two things, and I've scrutinized them in the second to see whether I still feel that way, and I have. But it doesn't detract from the fact that this is one of the most incredible cinema experiences I've ever had, despite watching it for the first time at South Bank Cinema. Second time in Angelica was lovely. Look, it was
I watched it in VMAX both times.
Excellent. Yeah, the first time I watched it in Gold Class, second time I watched it in VMAX.
Yeah, second time.
VMAX is such an insane experience.
What is VMAX? Is that the Angelica?
No, VMAX is like, it's essentially just a normal cinema at event, but with much bigger seats, leather, comfy, more legroom.
I'm comfy enough in Angelica.
Nice experience.
But in Angelica, you've got reclining.
Yeah, Angelica actually has really comfortable chairs.
The funny thing about seeing it at South Bank was we got there late and it was fully sold out. Cinema 5, the huge one. And so
is that the one?
The huge
red one.
They're like
Is that the one we saw the Flash in?
Yeah, it would have been
that one. Like where you walk in.
We saw the Flash at Dendy.
No,
we didn't.
We saw the Flash in South Bank for sure.
No, I remember seeing the Flash because
No, you remember a different experience for sure. Because the Flash, we definitely
saw it at South
we
Bank.
sat on the far right.
We were with Christian and
Connor was there.
That was at Dendy.
That was at South Bank.
No, we were at the far right, and then we went and played basketball after because we were in South Bank.
That's right. We went up to school.
God. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But no. So Christian, who I saw Dune with, the only seats left were at the very front row of Cinema 5.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking up and seeing the most incredible scale film. No, it was overbearing. It was incredible. I was like, holy shit. It's like, wow.
I got the exact same seats both times. And I was like, dude, this is the best seat I've ever had in my life. Like, you're sitting there and I was right in the middle. It was perfect. Such a good experience.
The last thing I want to touch on that I feel like we haven't talked about yet is the fetus scenes.
Oh yeah, we haven't mentioned his sister at all.
Alia.
Joy.
Alia? Is that her name?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. They
That's so interesting.
very much reminded me of the Tree of Life.
They also kind of look like the 2001 baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same, that it was like, okay, this is 2001, and it's also like
Which is
Tree of
Denise,
Life.
which is Denise's all-time favorite film.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I found them really fascinating. I was unsure of how they fit in the.
Also, what's the implication that the water of life did to the baby?
It gave it like some sort of foresight or something.
So so she has foresight too.
She has like the same powers as Paul, but I think hers is going to be even stronger because she's not even developed yet.
Yeah, see,
And
that's
so with the mixture,
something that-
because it's like the whole thing is that she starts having conversations with Jessica once she
Yeah.
has it, because it's like she's already conscious.
She's already speaking.
So her development is increasing in some exponential
Yeah.
way, which means she might be actually a super being.
There was
Not Paul. I mean,
there's
we'll
something
see.
that reminds me of something that I was reading about the actual law with another character in the future of, but I don't know if it's worth.
No, I've not
so.
looked ahead
Yeah.
at anything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
don't
no,
wanna know.
I thought her character was really interesting, especially when he has the vision and she's there.
Yeah.
Although her whispering "I love you" was a bit like, brother.
It's Luke and Leia all over
Like
again.
it's like I know that it wasn't delivered that way, but because it was a whisper, there's something about when you whisper that line that it is like almost impossible to get away from that connotation.
Essential, yeah.
Yeah, but she doesn't at all have that. Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of just something you're like.
Also, that's how you know this movie's so fucking massive. Is Anya Taylor-Joy, who's one of the biggest actresses
bro.
in this in like Monday cinema. She wasn't on the poster.
But
She wasn't in the marketing.
She won't even be in the next one, really.
well, no,
Because the next one is like.
no, because this is the only thing.
have to be.
The only thing I know about Messiah, the book, is there's a 10-year time.
Oh, there's a
jump.
10-year gap. Immediately 10 years.
Immediately.
Oh.
Right.
So we're not going to get to see like the start of the battle with the houses.
I don't know. I don't know if there's
guess it's
like
up to
I don't know
me.
if it's like a first chapter and then it's a 10-year,
Yeah.
but I know it's almost instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Which is why
Does the book and the movie end in the same place? The first book and the
these
two
yeah,
parts?
this does. It
Okay.
does, yeah.
well, maybe he'll do some fill in.
It's the difference, the actual difference. All I know
They'll
about
do what they did with like Florence Pugh at the start of this movie, but they'll do it for stuff we haven't seen, I think.
Yeah.
the only thing I know for sure that Denise changed is that she is born in the first book. Like, so she should have been born in
At the end of
one of these movies.
Yeah.
Like in this one probably.
Nah, he couldn't
But
fit that in. Wouldn't
he
be able to.
just knew that was too
Yeah.
big.
Would have
Yeah.
They couldn't have done it.
Speaking of Space Odyssey, though, there is the homage to the apes with the bones and the rocks. Do you notice when Jessica kills a man that was gonna shoot Paul?
Oh yeah.
Cuts up with her
Yeah.
smashing the rock over the head.
Oh,
in it.
right.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And just a funny little.
Also,
callback.
how awesome was the scene of them like falling off the cliff? And they just go,
Yeah, that
boof,
opening scene.
Yeah.
boof.
It was kind of like, whew.
The corpses are dropping.
Yeah. See, I missed that the first time I watched it because I was so late trying to get a park.
Oh really?
South Bank, yeah.
So
I missed the first
when
10
you walked
minutes.
in, what was the scene that you saw?
They were in the command room.
Oh, the Harkins.
Harkins.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I turned to Christian and I was like, what I miss? He goes, nothing.
Oh, was he already in there?
Oh, yeah, because he
right.
got out of the car and walked in. I said,
That's a good Christian answer.
good, nothing.
I mean, you didn't really miss
Yeah,
anything, but
but-
you also missed like a lot of
fuck all.
stuff.
Yeah, I watched it again. I was like, hold on, that's not nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like when he says nothing, you think, oh, so I missed like 10 seconds.
yeah, a couple minutes maybe. A fight. He goes, yeah, just one battle. But
It was pretty fucking dope. It was pretty fucking good.
yeah, for someone that is so unimpressed by most things, I've never seen someone so happy with something.
Oh, it's such a good movie, dude. Hey, I would love to have spoken to him after watching that.
Dude, it's almost like I think the only time I've seen Christian really happy was when we walked out of Batman and when we walked out of Northman. Those two. When we walked out of Northman, he was like, "That guy's me, bro. That guy's actually me. I'm the Viking."
We'll add this to the list because we were driving around afterwards, just we'd say like 5 words about it, and then we'd just laugh about like how insane this film is.
Yeah.
But I think we should wrap it up. Has anyone said anything or missed anything they want to say?
I will say quickly,
This discussion is nearly as long as the movie.
I don't think that we've given Fade enough.
Oh, that's a good
attention.
point.
Talk.
We've not even talked about Austin Butler's acting,
mean,
which
I
was
wanna-
unbelievably
we were
good.
supposed to, but then we got segue quickly.
I'm not gonna lie, we really should have just done a Dune episode.
Yeah, we could.
Honestly, we could just
Dude,
do
I have zero interest in talking about the other movies. I just want to
Yeah.
keep talking about June.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, look, at the end of the day, I think most people care more about June. I reckon we could do like
I reckon we could
majority June. We could do 10 minutes for both.
maybe
of
we
those.
release it separately as well.
No, we're not going to do that.
We could do like
that's a little bit OTT, but we'll just say that it's a June. It's like
June special.
June and other
we
things.
could put like a little
But
thing at the start, maybe. I don't know.
okay, let's.
But it's so like to say to me, oh, now we're going to talk about Driveway Dolls. I'm like, so you're telling me I've got to now
Yeah.
talk about something else? We're talking about
Yeah.
June.
Wait, I want to keep
I don't want to talk about something
No, I
else.
don't want to talk about like even like Fanny and Alexander. That's like a pretty interesting movie, but I'm not in the mood to discuss that. I'm in the mood to discuss June
and just keep talking
because
about
there's
it.
so much to talk about. You could sit here and you could do an analysis of each character and then each relationship of the characters. We could just do like what you do in English in school. Like you could just do weeks of worth of work in this one
We
sitting.
could be here till tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, because we're recording late.
We could
ladies
read
and
the
gentlemen.
books
Yeah.
while recording. Do like a little live stream.
on the topic of Fade Ratha and the Harkonnen planet, the sun is black,
Yeah.
which makes everything this
Yeah,
sort
that-
of inverted.
So that's why it's black
That's
and
why,
white.
that's
I didn't
why I
even
wanted
notice
to.
that.
Like you brought this up and then we completely.
I thought it was a
segued
total
quickly.
artistic choice.
No. It's
But
that's the planet.
That is so
But-
awesome.
isn't it so epic? Like it's crazy
Yeah, it's-
because one thing classic. It's in all shitty student films is they always put like some section that's in black and white. Because it's like, well, it's an artistic color choice.
Yeah.
And there's no justification for it.
Yeah.
But this, they were like, oh, in the art design, it's just going to be a black sun. So we can make it black and white, noir style.
Yeah.
Denis gets to fulfill his student film dreams and put it black and white in this movie.
And it looks
He-
incredible.
What other movies does he do black and white in?
Isn't Polytechnic black and white?
Yeah,
I haven't
that's
seen
the
that
whole
one.
thing's black and
I haven't
white.
seen
both
that
seen
one.
Polytechnic?
I've seen it.
Nah.
That's all black.
The big one is I want to see Insandi. I've heard Insandi is
Dude, I haven't even
amazing.
seen like what,
That's like his best.
Sicario.
Yeah, Sicario is what I wanna
Sicario is
see.
dope. I've
See,
seen
the
that.
thing that I was wondering about Sicario is that like something that's helped him make this movie in terms of skill.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the big thing for me is I want to see Arrival again because that was his
Arrival's
first.
incredible.
That was his first sci-fi, and I haven't seen Arrival since I saw it in the cinema in 2016. That's how long it's been. I don't remember Arrival at all. I remember thinking it was good, but I don't remember it.
Man, this guy has an insane set of movies.
Dude, Enemy, dope. Prisoners, double dope.
Prisoners is
Blade
epic.
Runner.
Blade Runner.
2049.
Literally one of the most memed movies of all time. Just Gosling and
Sicario is supposed to be really good as well.
Sicario is really good. That's about the drug trade or whatever, the Mexican.
Man,
I need to see the original.
yeah.
Maybe we'll
Polytechnic
do.
is good
Maybe we
too.
should do a Denis retrospective.
Or a Denis ranked.
Denis tier list. Oh,
What do we think?
Well, I think what I find
yes.
really interesting about him as well is I remember
Totally great idea, Marlon.
I remember seeing something
Genius.
that said that he like decided he wasn't going to make movies so that for a little bit so that he could actually get real world experience and like learn about life and then come back and make movies.
That's such a cool.
And that is a badass move and therefore that's respect and all his
Yeah.
movies are good.
Respect.
Okay.
Respect.
So Nick, you did bring up Fade Ratha.
Yes.
What do you want to say?
Well, I want to say a couple things. One is that. So I don't. What was the last thing Austin Butler was in? Was it Elvis?
Elvis.
No, there might have been something else because he
Hold
kind
on.
of had a little blow up. It might have been a
So
show.
there's a TV show that he's in called Masters of the Air,
Okay.
which I really do want to
Is that
see.
the
It's-
Apple TV
Yeah,
World War II
it's the World War II one.
Okay.
Apparently, it's great. Haven't seen it yet, but I have seen shorts for it, and he does almost do the Elvis voice. And there is a movie coming out in July with Tom Hardy and him, and it's like a bikey movie, which looks freaking dope. We'll probably be doing it for the podcast. But it also sounded kind of similar to Elvis.
Bro, he
but
was
in
in
this
Aliens
one-
in the attic.
But in
Was
this
he?
one,
Apparently.
he
Oh, he was. What a glow up, bro.
Yeah, it looks completely different.
Holy.
Gosh.
He looks completely different in this movie.
the only other thing that he's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood
He is.
as
yes.
Tex, and he is completely different in that
yeah.
than he is in Elvis.
He's actually a good actor, man.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like Elvis, I still think Elvis is his best performance. He
never
put in
seen
so
Elvis.
much. He
Yeah.
put so much work into it. Oh,
Elvis. Did you even
holy
like
shit!
Elvis? You haven't seen
Holy
Elvis?
fuck.
No.
Holy
I just
fuck! I
avoided
can't
it.
believe I told you. I saw Baz Luhrmann today.
At uni.
Yeah, well, not at uni, but like just before uni.
Oh,
You actually saw it? Did you speak to him?
I didn't get to speak to him because what happened was I got off the train, and you know when you walk past the Emporium,
Yeah.
he was coming out in the nicest Tesla sports car I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
and I
could've been
looked
a
at him,
Roadster.
and he looked at me, and I was like, "That's fuck." And I realized that's Baz Luhrmann. And so he's coming out of the thing, and I turned around, and I just stood there and stared at him as he came out, and he kind of looked at me like. And he did a little wave, and then he just drove off. I was like, "Holy shit, that's Baz Luhrmann!" What the fuck?
I mean, if you're not in the actual city, if you're not in
That is so
the
funny.
Emporium is the place.
Well, so he lives in Brisbane then.
No, well, I think he lives. I think he lives on the coast, Gold Coast.
Right.
But the Emporium is like the highest.
They filmed
of
Elvis on the
high-end-
Gold
yeah.
Coast. Yeah,
The
it
Emporium's
is.
like the highest of high-end
you wanna go-
apartment buildings or
I see.
hotels.
If you want to go in Brisbane, you
We
go
had
to the Emporium.
a high school, I guess, student, colleague, whatever you want to call it. His father owned the top floor of that for a considerable amount of time.
Yeah,
Weapon.
Yeah.
Name drop.
but no. So
James
like,
Tan.
Baz
Yeah,
shot.
exactly. There you go.
Baz shot Elvis in the Gold Coast or whatever. But it was unbelievable. And then so I went into film class, and like for that shoot, he starts off. Shoot goes, "Oh, so we're gonna do this thing where you're gonna tell someone something that you've never told anybody else before," and everyone else was so whack. I was last. They went in reverse roll order, and so everyone else, for some reason, were telling injury stories. They were like, when I was 4, I broke my arm and had to keep playing a netball game.
Was it like
Even
the
though my
first
arm was
person
broken.
said that and it just led to everyone?
Well, I
going,
feel like
"Oh,
that's.
I guess that's
I feel
what
like
I'm
that's.
gonna say."
I feel like that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
And then you had like a couple of people just sort of saying some random shit like, "Oh, you know, I used to drink toilet water," or whatever they said. It was like super whack.
Yeah.
And then it came to me,
Students, right?
and it came to me, and I started, and I was just like, "Oh," so I got off the train. And my tutor was like, "Is that your story?" And I went, "Hold on," and I just saw Baz Luhrmann, and everyone went, "What the fuck?" It was dope.
That is so awesome. That is cool as.
It was a cool little thing.
I thought Brisbane could be this interesting.
I know. What the fuck? But I was
yeah.
thinking of saying to Baz, I need June tickets. Call Austin Butler. Give me I want to go see June in the States.
Oh, is this last week?
No, this is yesterday.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I'll see June for a third time. I will probably go see it a third time.
yeah.
Eventually.
I'm going to go see it with my dad.
Midnight screening.
Is there a midnight screening?
Oh, probably not. But
God, no.
I'm like,
We won't be finished this podcast at this point.
if there
yeah,
wasn't
actually,
those-
there's no movie screenings after 10. So unless we talk about the other 2 movies in 3.5 minutes, we got no chance. But no, we will
his
see.
performance is insane, Austin Butler.
Yeah, it's
He's
excellent.
he's got
It's
this.
unhinged.
He's I don't know how he can use his voice so well because it still sounds like him, but it's so under control. Like he's doing like this really interesting portrayal of the character where you listen to him speak and you just go, wow, this guy is insane. He has some weird thoughts for sure.
But
I think it's
the
great.
thing is as well, is
His eyes as well, like the way he portrays his face.
what I thought was super cool was the sort of, what's the word where it's like the discrepancy or the difference when you have the Léa Seydoux scenes after,
Oh right,
where
yeah.
she's in complete control of
Yeah.
him. And I thought that was such an interesting undercutting, and it made her seem so like, whoa, what the fuck? Because we've just seen him as this dominant, like the most alpha shit he could have possibly done.
Yeah, that's the second
they
time we
instantly
see
determine your
her.
weakness.
Yeah.
Like,
But
they instantly
Yeah.
were like, okay, she's like, okay, I'm gonna try this out. He's probably vulnerable to
Yeah.
sex. And
He's got
shit.
mummy issues.
But he
different kinds of mummy issues.
But he has this epic gladiatorial scene. He's just murdered people. And then the next scene after is he literally goes up to the Baron, who is the scariest mofo I've ever seen. And he's just like, I should have drowned you in that tub.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
he's like talking like that. And I'm going, dude, this guy's a savage.
Or at the
What
end
the
when
fuck?
Paul goes, cousin, and he's like, cousin.
Is that right?
Yeah, well, wouldn't be the first time I've killed a relative, and it's like, god damn.
May thy knife.
Yeah,
May thy
when
knife
Paul does it, it's like an
chip
honor
and
thing. He's
shatter.
like, bro, what? What is this?
But where he just is like, Paul, what's his name? The Emperor's just like, what Deeb? I need a champion.
Yeah,
You know, it's just
that was actually
I'm
hard.
here, Atreides.
It was hard for me to not laugh at the Emperor. When
because it's so Christopher Walken.
yeah, I was
'Cause you
waiting
have-
for him to go just full Christopher Walken
problem-
mode, but
and
he
I've heard
didn't.
people
He never did. So
They
it
never
was-
did.
Yeah,
he never did.
Full fighters.
But bro, you guys haven't seen True Romance.
No.
No.
But Christopher Walken has the single funniest, single greatest scene in True Romance that I've ever seen. And the first thing that he says is he sits down, and when I saw him in June, I just heard this line in my head because he sits down and he looks at the guy and he goes, know who I am? I'm the Antichrist.
God.
He's kind of like a Tommy Wiseau figure, bro. Like,
Funny.
He's just so funny as soon as you hear him speak.
Oh, but
The movie
who
was
is
so
this?
good, and he didn't go full into it. His normal like speech pattern, and it was enough where I didn't have to like burst out laughing.
No, it was a subtle performance.
Yeah,
He
I'm
still
so glad
looks
he
funny
doesn't.
though.
But
like-
but
He
even
looks so perfect for the role.
Yeah,
I
he
thought
does.
though.
Well,
But even his-
aging, you know, yeah.
Yeah,
even his subtle just where he goes, Wadib.
bro. Also,
Who is Wadib?
yeah. Also, this is a completely nothing point, but Florence Pugh's eyes are fucking huge. I don't know if I was the only one who
bug?
noticed this. When she's wearing like the full headgear.
That's
and,
quite
like,
a thing
her
to say
face is
when
all
Anya
covered,
Taylor-Joy's in the
and
movie.
and her eyes are like half her face, bro. It's like an anime character. It was legit like, holy crap.
No, you're not wrong.
I was like, damn.
They're big eyes.
Yeah, but you can't even tell that much in like her normal
No, but,
normal
like-
face. It's like well proportioned, but when you can't see her face,
How cool is the costuming?
oh, it's brilliant. And this was actually an interesting thing as well.
Yeah,
as,
the
like,
costuming is
even
fun.
the design of like the ships and stuff. That obviously is like new to people. Like nobody really
Based on
knows what it looks
descriptions
like.
from the books.
Yeah, but that's going to become like the Star Wars level of.
But what I like
that's
about
what sci-fi looks like.
what I like about it is it's still so humanistic. You know what I mean? Like the costumes, because it's set in the year 10191
Yeah.
or something.
But
You
they're
know?
still wearing like. Real
So you could
clothes.
think this is like some distant future where humanity's moved to a different galaxy or some shit like that.
Well, they're not
What-
in
yeah, they're
this
in-
one.
No, I know that.
They've like the whole universe, bro.
Yeah.
But what I mean is that
Or a significant chunk of it.
what I mean is that what's so cool about the costumes is they look still humanistic, even though it's a sci-fi and it's super weird and abstract. But you feel like, look, if humans in the very distant future, this is probably what they would dress like. When you watch Star Wars,
Yeah, you don't really.
now don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on Star Wars, but Star Wars is more fantastical. You know, what I like about Dune is it's still super whack. Like the costumes are whack, but it's still so heavily influenced by
The real world.
real world. You just look at, traditional Islamic dress, especially for women, and then you just look at the Bene Gesserit.
I also
outfits.
find it interesting how, like, I think the plot of Dune as well is that they defeated like some threat originally, and they had to adapt, and that's how they survived. And I love that they went sort of regressed politically, like they went from a democracy now to like the classic like kings type of thing going on. I think that's so interesting to like have that, because like it can explain why we're like, wouldn't we have progressed more politically? But it's so much more interesting that they're saying we might regress, that history isn't just going forward,
Yeah.
that we might go back to survive a certain threat, and that means we now have to do all this work again to progress. But I think it's so interesting.
But the
think it's
whole
just great,
but the whole
bro.
goal of the Bene Gesserit is to save humanity, which
Yeah.
is like shit that we're talking about now.
Which, yeah,
You know?
but also that comes along
that
with
you
such
never
an
see
interesting
that.
moral or ethical question of like,
Yeah.
how is doing all this terrible stuff to
Yeah.
save humanity, is that good?
Well-
What is that like for example, Paul, he
But
sees
also-
in the
but
future
also
that he
the-
causes like millions, billions of
He said
people.
billions of deaths, yeah.
Billions of deaths.
But Bene Gesserit also are so politically self-motivated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they
So
also
it's like, how can we consider them good people when they're essentially doing Game of Thrones? They're just going to different
Yeah.
houses and scheming and
I think-
plotting and bullshit.
I think that's what makes it so interesting, is that it's like they aren't good, but they want to do
That's
the
why.
good.
That's why this
goals.
whole universe is so cool.
Yeah. Mm.
None of them are particularly good. Leto, whatever, Oscar Isaac was probably the best dude.
And he's considered a weak man.
He was considered a weak man, but he was probably the most moralistic person. He was like Ned Stark.
Yeah.
I know I keep making all these Game of Thrones comparisons, but they're actually kind of justified.
But he's
You need to
he
watch
has-
Game of Thrones
he has
so you
this
can get all
nobility
these
in it.
I just
references.
watched Lord of the Rings first.
Dude, I need to
Yeah,
watch all
Full,
of these
you're
references.
realizing that all this stuff is so iconic. You need to Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. You need to get on this.
Dude
stuff.
saw Dune and Dune Part 2 before.
Yeah, you
Lord
saw
of the Rings.
Dune. I'm sorry, but Dune before
sorry, but,
Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings.
I've seen The
fuck?
Hobbit.
That's such
That's
a waste.
That's such a what a waste
When
of
I
time. You
was
may as well
about
have just
13.
looked at the sky. You know.
I thought the same.
my one of my mother's favorite I guess claims on her influence of my pop culture upbringing, I guess I worded that terribly, is that
Yeah.
she said when I was like 18 months old and she'd get sick of looking after me, she'd put Lord of the Rings on the TV and sit me in front of it.
And you just like, it just went into
Yeah,
your brain.
and she reckons I'm like the person I am because of that. Whereas my dad goes, "You're a nutcase for putting swords and stuff in front of his face at, 18 months." But I thank her
I
for
could
it.
have put worse things in your face.
Oh, shut up, bro.
I'm an infant in this scenario.
That's my point.
God.
That's my point.
I am very thankful for that fact, though, because Lord of the Rings is amazing. It's incredible.
Yes.
So back to Dune.
Back to
And Fade Ruther specifically, he is such an intimidating and unnatural looking thing. Like,
did they just shave his head, or did they
No,
like?
he had a ball cap.
it's got to
He
be
had a ball
prosthetic.
Because he has like
Yeah.
the ball in his
He's
skull.
too
Yeah,
he's
he's
too
got-
much
Is that
in
just
his
skull?
I think that's his
How did
real
they
skull.
do that? They like shave the back of his head or something?
Yeah, well,
No, because what you can do is they can put hair nets on and it can pull your hair up and shit. And they can also slick it as well.
But-
there's all sorts of bullshit.
because
they
that's
do
the
with it.
natural thing in the head.
Yeah, like I don't know.
everyone's got
Yeah,
that.
it's like a.
Some just more pronounced than others.
Yeah.
Clearly, Austin Butler's a fair bit more.
But also, he may have had really short cut hair, and they may have faded.
I don't
They
know.
may have faded.
I didn't even think of it as a ball cap. I just thought they literally.
I
shaved
reckon
his head.
that's his natural tongue, as well.
Yeah.
but it's so long and just
You know, he
Dude,
probably
Austin Butler's low-key a creepy dude.
yeah,
he probably
it's like-
practiced that shit.
it's
Bro.
unsettling and
If he
disconcerting.
didn't do like the whole Elvis thing, I think he would be like considered a terrifying human being.
Well, because his other famous role is Tex in Once Upon a Time in
Yeah,
Hollywood.
and
He was
he
a
was,
real
like-
life serial killer.
And he was like, yeah.
You know, but it's crazy to think that he went from Elvis to this. Like, this is his next
Yeah.
major role since Elvis, and it could not be a more opposite. Which I think is great. I'm like, it's great. He's just proved, because everyone was like, bro, you sound like Elvis now.
Yeah.
Your voice just sounds like Elvis. You're gonna be just this one shot actor loser. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, bro.
But then he gets to double down and make it sound even more deep and strong.
I'm imagining he's stuck in this voice now from now on.
That would be so awesome if
like
he just
doing
answers. He answers the phone, and it's just like the pizza people. He's like, I want a pepperoni pizza.
What does he say? Is this your pet? Oh, that's terrible. But what is he
Your
called?
delivery driver.
Yeah. Is this?
Wouldn't be the first delivery driver I paid.
What is he called? Charming?
Pet.
Your pet.
Yeah,
your
is
pet.
this
This is your pet.
Oh,
What does he say after that? He says, "This is your pen," and he goes,
Any
"It's how
special
many-
attention
Yeah, any
for
special
the pet?
attention."
For the pet.
What does he mean by that, though? Just
I
like
think he was just trying to taunt Paul.
I think he was threatening
him
her.
off.
He was just like, bro, I'm gonna fucking,
Well, because you see him, he's like, he just kills whoever, pretty much. There's girls.
But
in
he's
this
probably,
movie,
but
he
he's
just kills them.
probably, he probably can instantly realize that Paul cares about Chani, and so he's like, but you're now gonna go marry the princess.
yeah.
Like, what a dick.
Yeah.
But he's like, this is your pet. You're just gonna use her as your
I
concubine.
honestly, actually, I genuinely think he had that thought. Like, bro, what? This guy sucks.
Fade's going, what a dick.
Yeah,
what a dick.
especially because you can see he's all about honor, right? Wouldn't that be part of honor? Like, if you committed to this woman and then you just completely,
But-
obviously he sleeps around though.
That's
so-
another
this-
thing.
yeah.
That's another thing that's so
His
awesome.
darlings.
But no, Fade has like a sense of honor to him as well.
Yeah,
Even though he's
when he
the
dies,
creep-
bro, he's like,
They literally,
"Facts, bro."
the first thing that's said about his character is Florence goes, Fade Ratha? He's psychotic.
Yeah.
And yet, he has that fight with that dude, the Atreides guy,
For well Atreides.
and he takes the thing
Yeah.
off, and it's like, he's actually got this sort of sense of honor to him. It's so dope.
yeah.
Oh, it's just so
and,
cool.
and the callbacks at the start when he kills the first Atreides guy, it's you fought well. And then at the end when he dies, it's you fought well, Atreides.
Yeah.
And then he
it's-
dies. Also, so
just-
wait, the final like blow, right? He gets the knife into Paul's like shoulder, and then he gets the other knife. Is that what happens? I was trying to figure out how it goes.
Paul pulls out the
He
one
pulls it
that's
out
in his-
as he's like leads that into his shoulder.
Uh-huh.
So he like takes that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So he's got
that's
one
sick.
here and there. And while Fade is so concerned with just
Yeah, he
getting the
doesn't-
knife
he
out
doesn't
there fighting,
realise that he's
because
still
it
got-
cuts Paul's hand
Yeah, well,
like through the glove. You
that's
can
what I
hear
was,
that
yeah,
slicing. That's
it, yeah,
cutting.
yeah.
And Paul's
Yeah.
just used the distraction of, I've got his shoulder now.
Well, here
But
was the thing I
because he
was.
lets go of the pressure, so the knife
Yeah.
comes down, and so Fade's like, but then
The one thing I was wondering though is, so the way that the fight went, was that like Paul foresaw that it had to go that way, or he just like was actually fighting?
I think
No, I think it was
obviously-
an actual fight.
Because obviously it was an
he
actual
foresees
fight.
that he wins. Or,
But did he see that he had to like?
we're locked in.
Sorry, guys, that was just a
Possible.
little interruption from where we were.
Possible we could be locked in.
That'd be hilarious.
I think we'll be all right.
Stay the night at the fucking anyway.
Overnight at UQ challenge.
Yeah.
Unbeatable.
So no, where the fuck were we? No, it's
Fighting.
because
It's that.
Paul Paul says, I'm pretty sure right after he takes the water, you see him sitting there and he goes, I see one way how this ends or one way through this. Like he does that thing. They have a shot for for a second and you see it's a close up of the knife where he stabs Faye.
Oh,
You're right.
So I think he knew what was happening in that moment when he caught the knife like this.
Yeah.
And he was like, I know exactly what I have to do. Let him stab me and I'll do this.
Okay. Yeah.
But
The rest of the fight, ad-lib.
the rest of it's legit because when you see him, he's all like,
Yeah, he's still fighting.
he's dying and shit. And it's like, well, obviously he's not planning that shit.
How amazing is the shot of the backdrop of Dune as they're fighting?
Oh, yeah.
Like just the two of them at the 2D level, essentially.
Yeah.
How incredible is that?
That's amazing.
There's the three shots that stand out to me from Greg Fraser, from the cinematographer.
Greg Fraser.
Yeah.
Use his name. He deserves respect.
Greg Fraser. Where as I said, the sand walking.
Sand walking. Yep, love that.
That shot of the battle
Yep.
between Fade and Paul and the Messiah when he's walking through the crowd, the bird's eye view.
Yep, amazing. But also
It's
before
just
that,
incredible.
when he's walking and it's all blurred, he does that in Batman all the time where there's actually no focus point on the lens. The whole image is just blurred, but you can tell what's happening because it's for distance. And you see Paul walking and the sandworm erupts in the background while he's got his hood on. Looked badass.
So cool.
The two shots, first of all, of him coming out, putting the dagger up in the air, and you see the whole crowd. And then when the bomb goes up and he stands there and the wind blows his cloak back, fucking dope.
Also the scene when he's like walking through all the people when he
That's
first
what I
becomes
just said.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Messiah scene when it's from the bird's eye view.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
splitting the crowd.
So good.
I think that it's
So
just such
epic.
a breathtaking film, and to be able to be so complex in the story, obviously based on Frank Herbert's
This is
novel.
why I would love to read the book because from what I understand, the book is like explaining, it's doing the world building and everything. So it's not just like the movie obviously can't do that because it's a movie.
Yeah, because I feel like when we watch these ones, I have a solid understanding of what they are, but there's no depth there.
Yeah.
But I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean like, I
don't know
know I can
everything.
tell what the Bene Gesserit are doing and what they are, but I don't understand how do they train?
Well, you also
What are
wouldn't-
their powers?
you
How does
also
the
wouldn't-
voice work?
You also
it's
wouldn't
sort of-
know that they wanted to save humanity. You just know that they want ultimate power of some kind. You don't know.
And
what
that's
that-
not a knock
why.
against the movie because look, you can't adapt a book.
Well, how would they even put? Yeah,
It would either be exposition where someone sits there going, "This is the Bene Gesserit and this is what they do." Blah blah
David
blah
Lynch
blah blah
says
blah, blah, blah.
otherwise.
Well, how did David Lynch even do it?
We'll
We need to
find out
find out
one
when
day.
you watch that.
Watch it. Yeah,
Should've.
as you said, I still have the time, don't I?
Sorry, I've
I
knocked the
still have
table.
the time. I can do it, but I won't.
I should have done it.
Nick
Anyway,
wants me to pick.
I want you to
David
pick
Lynch's
Dune.
Dune for my recommendation, which will not be happening.
I'll just pick it when it's mine next.
It's a bit
Spoilers.
Are you
predictable.
next? You are next, right?
No, you're next.
Oh, I'm next.
Yeah, because he's
Bro,
doing
just-
the one we're
just
talking
pick
about.
I'm
Dune.
just gonna pick Dune
It's so dope.
and Twin Peaks both.
Yeah, the entire show, 3 seasons on
I'm
the
gonna watch
podcast.
Dune
And the
before,
movie.
I'm gonna watch Dune by David Lynch before that, so then he can't pick it.
No, don't do that. Don't be a
But I
prick.
could
Oh well, if you did that, I just picked the entire Twin Peaks show. So either way, you lose.
Either way, we lose, but do not let him pick Twin Peaks because it'll take too long. We have lives otherwise.
right.
I'll like go into hiding for like 3 days and then come back, and I will be a different human.
I'm
Low-key, we do need to we probably need to wrap
happy
it
to
up.
wrap up Dune.
Yeah.
We could keep going. I do feel like
So
we could keep
basically,
going.
we did about a third of the movie. Actually, we did more than a third of the movie.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, this will be by far our longest conversation.
By far,
Yes.
deservedly. So,
I don't know,
like,
Gene,
Yeah.
like, because Gene Dealman went on for
That was about 45.
45
I think
minutes.
we've had a couple
About an hour and
45s.
20.
This is very long.
Yeah,
Would anyone in particular want to start? I'm happy to.
you can start.
It's a 5 out of 5, a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah,
obviously 10 out of 10, brother.
it's a 10, guys.
Great movie. I think that's the first we'll give it 10.
First, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was
Yes.
a 1 hour and 19-minute discussion, so makes sense.
Yeah, if you hadn't figured already.
I'm already calling it. It's movie of the year. It's quite possibly going to be movie of the decade.
It's one of the...
I think it's such a good movie that might possibly inspire a generation to get into reading. Hopefully.
Well, for one thing, it is going to make.
I know
It
that
is
the
gonna
first one
make
did that. I know a lot of people who started reading Dune in our school during the time that came out. And that
Yeah.
movie was nowhere near as good as this.
Yeah.
So
No, you're right. And
No, it's definitely going to
You
inspire.
said the bookstores were all sold out.
They're all sold out.
Yeah.
The Dune book, it's going to make the Herbert family a shitload of money. But also, I mean, I remember because when Blade Runner 2049 came out, I was like, I don't know, 13 or something. I was young. And that was right at the point when I was getting into movies. And Blade Runner was the first movie that I had ever watched where I was like engrossed by the cinematography. And I had never like realized how awesome shots could be until I watched Blade Runner. And that did contribute to my eventual developing of love for cinema and movies and all that. So you were saying, like, that's what it did for me. And that was for my time. Now I'm a bit older, but there will probably be kids my age or like 13 today. But now today, and they'd be watching Dune going, fuck, I want to learn how to do that.
I think it's the best cinema experience I've ever had.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think so.
And, you know, I've seen enough movies now to have a nice pool of options. But
I think the only thing that may have rivaled it, and you guys might think this is an odd choice.
Yes, I know at home.
No.
Thank God.
Fuck no.
I don't know.
Fuck?
You're a freak for that shit.
Fuck? No. I was going to say The Boy and the Heron.
Oh, no, I was
gonna say-
that was amazing.
I was going to say, no, but experiencing a new Ghibli movie in
I
cinema
think in
was
terms
pretty
of
amazing.
This is a once in a generation film,
Yeah.
as we've established. Boy and the Heron's the end of a generation of films, or not an end of a generation.
No, but I'm just
of a,
no, but I
felt
just
like
but I just mean in
Wonka.
watching Wonka.
I just mean in terms of like sitting there and being in awe of what you were watching.
Okay, no,
But also, I mean, not even just like the fact that you're sitting in the movie you're in awe of the movie. It's like you immediately know
yeah.
that this movie is gonna be something culturally.
I mean, we
You know what I
didn't
mean?
even mention. I know we're supposed to be finished. It's number 6 on Letterboxd's all-time top 250
Yeah, and it's going to
with
increase.
500,000. You know,
What was the other thing?
I think we really should move on though. This could get out of hand otherwise. We could be here all night.
What was
Alright.
the other thing?
quickly, Nick.
Fuck.
It had like 100% Rotten Tomatoes or some shit. I don't know.
No.
Somebody said
Nah,
that.
I'll think of it. It'll
Well-
pop into my head.
The other movie that we decided to watch that was a new release for the month of, what is it, February?
February, yeah.
Was Driveaway Dolls. Ethan Cohen.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's decided to stop working with his brother, and they're making their own films. Mm-hmm. I think this is his second or maybe his first since the split. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But essentially, it is the story of 2 lesbians that embark on an impromptu road trip. I'm reading from Wikipedia here because one of them broke up with their partner. And essentially, things quickly go wrong because they find out in the car that they've rented, the driveway car that they've rented, there is a head and a penis case casting.
It's
of a
it's a case full of dildos.
Yeah, of a famous politician. And so essentially the whole plot is these women going on a sort of journey of exploration and trying to find, or one of them to find themselves and the other showing them how to find themselves while they're being hunted by crooks, essentially, to get 6 dildos back. To save a politician's reputation.
So immediately, Miley Cyrus is in the movie.
Yeah, which was very odd.
I was like, the fuck? That is Miley Cyrus. The second thing is that Pedro Pascal, who is a gift to humanity, is killed instantly. And I never saw him again. And I was
in one of like the worst scenes.
I was
You mentioned that.
furious. I was like, what? You've got this guy and you kill him? And also, I will say this though, he did get his eyes gouged out, which Luke is now the 3rd time in a thing he's got his eyes gouged out.
Do you reckon he like puts it?
Was Game
he's
of
like, I'm
Thrones?
not.
He's in Game of It's
Does he go like, I'm not signing the contract unless you let me get?
And then
my
in
eye gouged out."
Equalizer, Denzel pulls one of his eyes
Yeah,
out.
see, I haven't seen Equalizer.
It's like, what?
But
This guy loves this, bro. It's like a fetish, bro. This eye gouge fetish.
Matt Damon's in it. He's the politician that's dick's been stolen, essentially.
Yes, Coleman Domingo's in it.
Yes,
Who,
it's
if you guys, I know you guys haven't watched Euphoria, but he's in
I've
Euphoria.
seen Euphoria.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's in Euphoria. He's dope.
The
Is his
TV
name?
show.
Yeah, the TV show
Yeah,
Euphoria.
I've seen Euphoria.
What's his name in Euphoria?
Not important.
Fuck.
But I suppose, look, it's a pretty fun, light-hearted movie, despite dealing with some pretty serious topics, right?
Does it deal with serious topics?
One, freedom, journey, finding yourself, expression. That's a
Every movie's
serious
got that in
topic. But it's like,
I don't think it
very-
has anything interesting to say.
not really.
nothing.
The most
just like-
interesting thing I can say about this film is the psychedelic trance-like
Yeah,
sequences
what the hell was that though?
that were very,
So retarded.
yeah, they didn't fit at all.
Sorry, like what the hell?
They didn't fit at all, but they were very cool to watch these. One of my
They were
favorite
cool. Yeah, they were
songs.
good scenes. And it
Maggot-
was like It's like, what? What the
Maggot
hell?
brain is in it.
Yeah, I was thinking
Right.
like, oh, what's in here? They've got like some
You know what it-
LSD or something.
you know what
in
it-
there, and it's just like, oh,
No.
What it was screaming
Good
to me
dildos, bro.
is it seemed like the kind of, it seemed not pretentious. It just seemed like a try-hard stoner movie. You know what I mean?
yeah, it has
There are
that
stoner,
vibe of
there are
trying to be a
stoner movies
movie.
where it's like, oh, it's kind of weird and
Pineapple
goofy.
Express
and,
is a
you know?
stoner movie. You know what I mean?
Or like Ted is a stoner movie.
Those movies don't try to be stoner movies. They are
No,
legit
they are.
stoner movies.
But like a good, or when you think about it, Big Lebowski is not like I know a lot of people who have gotten stoned to Big Lebowski, but it's not necessarily a stoner movie. But Big Lebowski is that kind of, it's a lackadaisic thing. It's got a lot of characters who are in it very briefly. The plot doesn't really matter. It's just kind of stuff's happening, and there's lots of very odd, very comedic sequences. There's a lot of dream sequences in Big Lebowski, and that's possibly the Coen Brothers' most famous film, either that or No Country for Old Men. And this movie screamed like it was just trying to do that again. To me, it had the same sort of structure. It was a plot that didn't really matter. The main
Kind
thing,
of fun.
it was a fun. It didn't really matter. The characters were very eccentric, and they were trying to just be funny a lot.
It's
Yeah.
very easygoing as well.
And they
you
had a
really
lot
don't
of-
have to do much thinking.
No,
Yeah.
you had a lot of famous actors being in it for a very brief time, and the plot doesn't really matter, and kind of shit just happens randomly.
Yeah, the characters actually don't do anything.
Like Coleman Domingo and one of his mates just get killed, and it's
Straight
like,
away.
oh, okay,
Well, at the very end. But
it's
yeah.
like, okay, they're dead.
Yeah.
Fine, move on. Fine. Matt Damon is in it, and then just gets shot instantly, and it's just like, all right.
What I thought the psychedelic scene is, at least with the maggot brain one, I'm just reading off my notes from at the time, was just a different way or an alternative way to show a sex scene.
It was also to introduce the idea that there was dildos in there.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't make sense. Like, why was that happening? Who was it happening
Well, I
to?
think it was just...
It wasn't. It was just a
It was
thing.
like it was
Well,
a flashback.
There was like
Yeah.
5 or 6 different versions of it, right?
yeah.
There was some with the dildos, some with the pizzas. There was the one with Miley Cyrus. But one of them, I think, just was a direct substitution for a sex scene.
But the Miley Cyrus one is actually to do with the plot. 'Cause
Yeah.
she was having sex with the senator or whatever that was.
Yeah, and cast the
And
dildo.
that's-
This hippie.
So I think, I don't know if that whole thing was you're supposed to watch all of those scenes and that's actually a flashback. It's like an acid flashback, you know? And you're supposed to watch that as some sort of part of the plot. Like that's just how they're presenting that sort of sub-storyline. But it was very unclear and it's just, it seemed so...
Thematically doesn't fit at all.
It just seemed so try-hard to me. They were doing this bullshit and I was just like, fuck off. Like,
mean, it
get
was-
out of here.
bonus points for good music.
Yeah, Maggot Brain's awesome.
No, yeah.
Anything in Maggot Brain, it's like, yes. But,
It was such a weird pick though, apart from the fact that it's like a trippy song.
yeah.
That's the only reason it was there. It doesn't really fit like the idea of those flashback scenes anyway. I don't know. It was a weird movie that was fun, that really meant nothing. You watch it, kind of goes in your
I
brain
found
really
the start was kind of shit, but I only liked it because it was Pedro Pascal. If it wasn't him, I would have fucking not cared at all. But I found the first half very tiresome. I didn't think that the leads had much chemistry, and I did not find it funny. And I was sitting there kind of thinking, low-key, this is a shit movie. As it went on, I started to like it a bit more. I thought the leads developed more chemistry, and I thought that the acid sort of scenes were starting to make thematic sense. And, you know, when Coleman Domingo and everything get shot, I was kind of like, ooh, as in, this is actually kind of interesting. And I didn't mind the ending, but it's overall, I went out and I was just like, oh, yeah, okay. Overall, I was like, okay.
this is one thing that
I would never rewatch it.
I really enjoyed the goofy editing. I thought it made it way more fun.
But that's
The
With the
iMovie
screen like
transitions.
invert and like flip.
Yeah, the iMovie
Like it was all
transitions.
dumb and silly, but I think that added to the character of the movie.
I know,
Fair
but
enough.
I can't
It's taking itself.
Yeah, it's a very.
But I can't
seriously.
escape the fact that I think that it's like trying so hard to be a stoner movie, and then it does all that sort of stuff like that, and I kind of go, nah.
I didn't pick up on it,
It's like, nah.
really.
It just, nah.
But for me, like, I think the main thing I took it of is we laughed a fair bit.
It was funny.
It's a very funny, fun,
Yeah, I found it pretty funny.
goofy movie that
But there was times where I don't know, I laughed I was laughing at it.
Yeah,
Not
I
with it.
agree. I agree.
There were times where I was laughing with it. There were times where it was
Other than that dude at the
enjoyable cinema
other than that dude at the start who was like, what was his name? The car salesman, Custer or whatever his name was.
bashed.
him was quite funny, but
Nobody
otherwise
else
it took a
curly.
while before the comedy really started to land with me. But when it did, I was enjoying it. I did enjoy Beanie Feldstein's character, the cop. I thought she was quite amusing.
Yeah.
She had enough screen time.
She
But
reminded me of Rebel Wilson. I didn't really like her.
I don't really
I don't
care
like
for her
Rebel
either,
Wilson.
actually. I didn't think she was that funny.
Yeah.
I was just like, meh. She's like
I
the
appreciate
typical
I
angry-
appreciate that they didn't just make her like the fat girl and they were
Yeah.
just making jokes about her being fat. Like that had nothing
Yeah.
to do with it.
Well, there's no need in the entire film at all, really.
No.
But your point about the relationship between the two main
Yeah.
characters not really having much chemistry is surely intentional. The whole point is that one's very reclusive,
Yeah,
and one's
but I
very
think-
outgoing, and that they clash.
But
in
what you need to happen is even when there's a clash, you need to be sitting there and you need to be rooting for the characters
or like
to
some
get
sort
together.
of spark, or
There needs to be
You
either an
didn't give a
underlying
shit.
Yeah.
there needs to be an underlying sort of burning sensation, like, oh, these guys could have something. Like when you watch some, even when there are people who don't like each other, you can instantly look and be like, those two are gonna fuck. When you can tell.
Yeah.
And I did not see that at all. I was kind of going, ugh.
Fair enough.
I found
Actually,
them both
when they
very
started
tiresome, very
started
tiresome
like
characters.
being into each other, it was like,
Forced.
why? Like what?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was just kind of
Clean off shit on a wall.
it's like a movie. It's like
Meh.
it's like a movie that is so low tier in terms of what it wants to be
Yeah.
that you don't even care that it's not doing these
It
things
is such a
well.
small movie.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like,
Is it
yeah.
like actually small?
I have no idea. I don't think it made much money at the box office, and now it is going to not make $1 because every motherfucker is going to be giving their money to Dune, which is fair.
And they heard on Fap's podcast that's kind of average.
I want everyone to give every dollar they have to Dune so we can get Dune 3.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
I want
I want Dune
someone
3
to-
by October this year.
Instead of giving their money to June, they should make a time machine for us so that we can, just us three, can go watch June 3
Dune.
now.
We'll go watch Dune Messiah in the
Yeah.
cinema in
Hell yeah.
2026.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, send us like 100 years. Actually, send us 10,000 years in the future so
Yeah,
that we can really
we'll go to
be
we'll go
in
to,
June.
we'll go to Arrakis, we'll just hang out, get on the spice and be
Yeah.
like, woof.
Yeah.
Fab's
And then
podcast on Arrakis.
We'll have some like random Fremen go like, oh, a bit too spicy for the foreigner.
Listen, Agaib!
Yeah, there's like the three of us, the three Lisa guys. We're like, yeah, bro.
He's literally,
yeah.
we're just walking around like we're like high as fuck. We're like, he's literally me.
I see the golden path.
The Fremen are looking at us like, bro, what are these guys talking about? Meanwhile, like Paul is like, he's already done everything, and we're like just like following in his footsteps. We're like behind them the whole time.
No, what you could do is
like
the opposite.
behind the plot.
The opposite is you
We're trying to walk to the battle. They're on the worms. We're just walking. We're running to the battle. Oh shit! We
running
see the
through-
worm in the distance. Oh fuck!
We like walk into like where they have like their war meeting, and we're like, where is everyone, bro? We just start yelling and shit, and then we just keep following it, bro. That'd be sick, man.
That'd be
Why are we going back to talking about Dune? Fuck.
Anyone have anything else to say about? Oh, I think they wanted the title to be Driveaway Dykes, but they can't market that
Yeah.
because you see at the end the dolls gets
Oh,
like
yeah.
knocked down and Dykes comes out.
Yeah.
But you can't really market that. I don't think.
Wow, that's a really
Insensitive word for the
is
general
dolls. What is
population.
dolls apart from just being like dolled up?
Yeah, I think.
I think dolls it's a slang term that you can say just for girls. Like, look at
Yeah.
these dolls. You know.
Anyway,
Pretty
I'm-
but expressionless. or
Literally have
unintelligent
basically nothing to say about it. I've mostly forgotten the movie.
'cause there's been more important thing. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
June has just sort of corrupted my brain.
I think we should have watched this like
June
after
plus
June.
starting film school, I got just no room for anything else. It's just like, what the fuck?
Driveaway Dolls should be at the top of your mind.
Driveaway Dolls is the best film of 2020.
Yeah,
Here's a review
they should
of
put
it.
this in film school now.
Yeah, this is the film they teach.
What,
They have like
Driveaway Dolls?
they have like a section on stoner films.
Here we go.
That
This is a
and
review
Ted,
about
bro.
film school. Gloriously gay, but also a little like a film student's approximation of a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah,
They're
that's
calling
probably
it
fair.
knockoff, essentially.
Probably fair.
And one criticism I read is that Ethan Cohen's lost a bit of the direction without Joel.
I agree. I think
saw
Joel.
someone-
I think Joel was always the bigger director because when they, like, I think the first film they ever did, which was Blood Simple, which is a great movie, that was only directed by Joel, and I'm pretty sure, like, one of the big ones that they did was only directed. Maybe it was Big Lebowski.
Yeah, so this is his.
I don't remember which
Yeah, I think
ones.
it's Big
Joel's
Lebowski.
done a few without.
From what I read as well,
This is his second.
they have like Ethan Cohen is a lot more like chaotic in terms of the movies he kind of comes up with, whereas Joel is
Joel
a lot more
Coen he was the only one who did Fargo as well.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
He only did Fargo, and he only did Big Lebowski.
So I think we know who is the stronger director out of the two. And with that, I think we can move
Wrap
on.
up.
Yeah,
Nick, do you want to give yourself?
I'd give it a 5.
Yeah.
Give it 5.
I'm
It's
at
whatever.
a 2.5 or 5 as well.
It's 5. It's fine. It was whatever.
Yeah.
It's cotton candy, bro. You
Yeah.
criticize
Yeah.
it to no end.
I think
but
a
at the end of the
5.
day, it's so low in its like goals that it's ridiculous to kind of be like, well, we'll compare it to Dune for its artistic merits.
It's kind of achieved its goals, right?
Yeah,
Like
it did.
kind of.
I
It's
think
there.
if we were to apply an LGBT lens, or if one of us were LGBT, it'd have probably a more profound
Oh, well,
impact.
that is on the idea of connecting to the movie. I think that will segue good into our next movie.
Which is Fanny and Alexander. Nick, your pick for last month. Would you like to introduce it?
I would.
But
No, hold on. I just wanted to
I'd rather go back to June.
Okay, so I've pulled it up. So 1982, Ingmar Bergman joint. Ingmar, pretty dope man, Swiss man. He is Swedish, right?
Swede.
Yeah.
Swiss.
Whatever. Swedish.
His last movie, correct?
Was it? No.
Or one of them?
No.
Could be wrong.
I have no idea. When did this fool die? He died in 200007. The fuck?
Because I'm pretty sure after this he went into TV.
Bullshit.
He just got to make movies
Well, that
afterwards.
is an interesting point in itself.
Bullshit he did
which
that.
we'll get onto in a minute. Nick, would you like to introduce the?
Okay, sorry. Yes, I have to introduce the film. So, Fanny and Alexander. It's directed by Ingmar Bergman, 1982. It's one of his most acclaimed films. It is a drama thing. All of his movies are dramas. They're all downers as fuck.
Sort of time.
Yeah, it's a pretty grand movie. I'd say. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
It's like small scale, if you know what I mean. It's an
Yeah.
intimate film.
Set in
it's
one
like
town.
it's like June. Yeah, it's a small film, intimate story, but it's very like the cinematography and it's freaking dope.
Yeah.
And it's all shot very epically. And I was actually going to say, well, first of all, I should say what the kind of movie's about. It's about these two kids, Fanny and Alexander, living with their parents. Their dad dies, and their mum gets all like depressed and all this rubbish. Like I don't mean that in a bad way, you know.
Stupid woman.
And yeah, they kind of start suffering a bit of abuse and stuff's going on and shit like that. And there's like the stepdad and stuff and all that.
Oh my god, that is such a bad summary.
The bishop.
You know what I mean?
He's a hypocrite.
You know what I mean?
He's just left out 2.5 hours of the
Yeah,
3 hour.
the bishop is a stern hypocrite.
Well, that was a
man
big thing.
who ruins the kids' lives,
Yeah.
basically.
Yes.
Especially
and has
Alexander.
done it previously as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what? So I was immediately going to say
Yeah, he's an El Bozo, bro.
This was made for television.
it was made for television. It was
Yeah,
this
I've
was
heard
the
5 hour
theatrically
is way
released
better.
version.
Yeah.
Because I watched this on the Criterion channel and they did have the episodic versions, and I would like to see that.
I think I would too.
I think it'd be interesting. I don't know if it would make it a different film because people do say that like this, and this version is really great.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would be the case. But
Movie day at Nick's. David Lynch's. Dune
Also,
in the
that
morning.
I do want to say that this is actually his last movie. It is.
Is it?
okay,
Which is interesting.
Proven
But it
wrong.
also says it's like you can see that this is like the culmination of everything he's learnt. Like you'll see just the shots. Like you could make it really simple and do a boring shot.
Yeah.
But you know he had like this tracking where he's like following the guy with like the candle around.
no, but I was gonna say my
With the
first
guy
thing.
that she marries at the end. I don't even remember any of their
The
names.
amount of names is terrible.
He's the dude that's like he sleeps around. Like at the start he sleeps with Madge, who's like the
Mistress.
his mistress.
Uncle.
The
Uncle Ivan. The
I don't know his
the
name.
Jewish what's his name?
I don't know.
He's the Jewish antique salesman, right?
I can't remember.
Antique shop owner. Uncle Ivan. That's his name.
Isn't it Aaron?
No, I don't know. He's one of the Ector bro. Well, obviously they're all Ectors basically.
Isaac. Uncle Isaac.
Oh my
Is it?
god, bro!
The one that she marries at the end.
Well, I'm confused.
There's a character in this called
I think it's Isaac.
Leeson.
What?
Listen, Al Gaib.
Yeah.
She doesn't marry this one.
No, not
His
that
son.
guy. No. It's I don't know. Anyway,
All right. So
the interesting thing about this movie is not him. So
no, it's not him.
That's kind
It's
of
not him.
because he's like a contrast
him at
to
all.
the bishop. But
first things first. This is what I want to get into immediately. Thought the cinematography and everything was extremely dope.
Spectacular.
I was going to say this movie actually reminded me of Barry Lyndon, my favorite movie ever.
I can see that.
And just in the way that Barry Lyndon is more big, of course, like
Yeah.
it's more of a grand sort of story. But I found both of them in the way that they presented any sort of scene, the shadows and the lighting and everything. It was all done very intimately and very of the time, if you know what I mean. I think they capture the time very well.
Do you mean as in of the 80s or of the 1900s?
Of the 1900s.
Yeah, so the
Like
turn
of
of the century.
Yeah, of the turn of the century, yeah.
Well, it's got an incredible production design.
It's not a period piece, but it kind of feels
It
like
feels
one.
like it because they're not royalty, but they're close.
Yeah,
very
well, that
rich.
was the thing. I
was trying
think
to
the
figure it
movie.
out.
I thought the movie had
rich
a.
theater people.
Yeah,
I thought it had a fantastic like first 15 minutes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it sort of sets up. You've got Alexander and he's walking around and shit, and you see how huge their house is,
And how
and it's got that great music.
just clutter and all different sorts of things.
yeah.
The
And
mu-
then you cut. Oh, sorry, yeah.
I was just gonna say the music freaking.
Oh yeah.
as well.
But then like you cut from this like beautiful world of like imagination and fun, and then to just this bleak, awful, like terrible house
Yeah.
that they'd have to live in afterwards. And it's like, god damn, if I was a
Yeah.
kid.
I also
Jesus.
think like it's a fantastic portrayal of childhood and the way like how he writes the children is very authentic, if you know what I mean. Because you watch a lot of kids movies where there are kids in it, and like it's adults writing children and they don't know how to do it, and the kids always just sound like brats, and it's like really cringe. Because adult like they go dab, whatever the fuck, which obviously wouldn't be in this. But you know what I
dabbing
mean.
in the 1910s.
But you know what I mean.
Truly
You know what I mean.
revolutionary.
What I'm trying. What I'm
He
trying.
was a seer.
What I'm
Listen,
trying to.
Nugget.
What I'm trying to say is like a lot of the time adults who try to write children, no matter what
they
period, they don't seem to understand what it's like or capture the children correctly. And I think Ingmar, maybe this film is semi-autobiographical. I don't know.
I think I did hear that it was a little bit based on his upbringing.
But it felt very authentic, and I appreciated that. And both of the child actors were very, very good.
They were.
Which is again uncommon. But the thing I wanted to get into, I wanted to ask is, so Marlon, what Ingmar movies have you seen?
I've seen Persona, Seventh Seal, and this.
Okay, Bowie, are you the same?
Persona, Seventh Seal, this. I've also seen, what's the one? What is it? Cries and Whispers,
Oh, you've seen Cries and
which I
Whispers?
didn't really like.
No, I didn't like it either.
Gustav's,
But I really love The Seventh Seal and Persona.
Yes.
Gustav's the man that she marries at the end, just for
Yeah,
future reference.
that's the guy.
Gustav. Damnation, the rocket went off too soon.
So aesthetically, this one is the
guys get
most
that,
similar
right?
to. No, I don't understand what you're saying.
That's when he's with the Marge at the start.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Funniest line I've heard
when
in a film in ages.
And he goes, oh, well, it happens sometimes.
Damnation, that's the only thing I wrote for this film.
Yeah. And then there's the... I also like
funny,
the
it's
other...
hilarious.
What's the other guy, like the fat dude whose wife is German? And he's like, kids, come here, I'm going to give you the best fireworks show ever. And he's just farting. So dumb.
Weird family.
Well, they're
Yeah.
theatre.
Yeah.
The big thing I wanted to talk about.
The ghost as well, by the way.
We'll get into the fantasy elements.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of address how this is, obviously, if this is his last film, how this is a culmination of his artistic works.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I haven't seen a terrible amount of Ingmar either. I think I've seen a little bit more than
I
you,
want to see
Isaac.
Autumn Sonata next.
That one's dope.
And have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. That's
wanna
one of
see
the
that
only
next.
few I have seen.
And Scenes from a Marriage. Amazing
seen that either.
filmography.
Yeah, he's got so many good ones. I've really wanted to see The Magician. I've heard The Magician's really dope. But I was thinking, because when you immediately, I think, and there's a reason, because it's his two most famous movies. You think of Ingmar Bergman, you go Seven Seal, Persona.
Mm-hmm.
Very dark, very artsy, very depressing, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this movie which is like, it's got fart jokes and shit in it. It's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, this doesn't really scream Ingmar. Like, it's got those underlying messages, but it's a bit of a softer movie, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't get me
it still
wrong, it's
explores
still-
the same sort of things.
It does.
Like faith. Faith is I think, his biggest thing that he explores.
In the whole,
At least from what I've seen, it's always faith.
yeah.
But I wanted to sort of ask you guys, how would you compare, how would you feel like this is different compared to some of those earlier, more prominent works like Seventh Seal, Persona?
This is a lot more polished than the Seventh Seal. As a
I think the Seventh Seal,
flowing
though, is my
film.
favorite one of his I've seen.
I think I love.
What do you
the,
mean by polished?
as in
Better?
It's just more, as you know, it's in the 80s. It's filmed. It's made in the 80s.
Well, obviously,
where,
technically, it's better.
yeah,
Oh, I see.
it's technically flawless almost.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that was noticeable for me that wasn't flawless was that some of the cuts were a bit weird, just when cutting back to the river. But I understand that's to establish that sort of intense, like, holy shit, that's where they died, you know. Rah, rah, rah. But the Seventh Seal is a lot more tacky because it's in the 60s.
Oh, I see.
He didn't have
Right?
the budget.
Yeah, but,
I
God, that
think
movie is
it's
But
incredible.
the,
and
but the concept of
it's-
Seventh Seal
yeah.
is one of the
Yeah.
coolest
It is.
concepts.
Yeah.
ever.
I finished that. I only watched it a month ago or something,
Man.
and just thought about it for ages. Just hadn't been
I still
thinking about
remember
it.
that, like, that experience.
Yeah.
And that was a while ago that I
No,
watched that.
It's an incredible thing to think about. This has a lot less, I feel, to think about after the fact.
Yeah.
In
Well,
terms
because
of
I think it's more
the
of a
content.
Yeah, I think it's more of a, what would you call it? It's a grounded story.
Yeah.
You know, it's a technically far better movie than
Flawless.
Persona or
Yeah.
Seventh Seal. But I feel like Persona and Seventh Seal ignite so much conversation.
But I think as well, those movies are almost more universal in terms of relating to them. I think to relate to Fanny and Alexander, you kind of have to have had a similar experience.
Sure.
And I think, like, that's...
Well, I mean, I connected with them emotionally, but I didn't relate to them
that's
in
what I
a
mean.
sort of like my
Whereas,
childhood
like,
was not
whereas,
like
like
that.
I think with the Seventh Seal, for example, like, it's
I can see myself in every
single person can...
But also, like, when he's playing chess with death, I'm like, that's literally me. That's me every Friday, bro.
Dude,
that's just how I feel at work. I'm just,
Yeah.
just playing chess with death.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Well, actually, I need to remember Cries and Whispers.
Well, Cries and Whispers
I don't know how
aesthetically is by far the most similar to this. But
Yeah.
Cries and Whispers is the most depressing of all the movies.
And it's also...
It's that woman who's just slowly dying of cancer.
yeah,
It was like,
she's so super slow.
and like she's just screaming all the time.
Yeah.
It was like
It's 10 years prior.
Actually, maybe that...
It was
that movie
unbearable to
thematically is
watch.
definitely the most relatable.
It's
but
called a horror.
yeah, straight up. It's so hard to watch. You're sitting there kind of going, oh god.
Actually, the set
fuck.
design looks awfully similar, or production design.
Man.
It is similar, but the
I do
red
not
is
wanna
it's
watch
more
that
of a
movie
it's
ever.
more of an angry.
It's the Shining vibe.
You know, it kind of is, man.
Yeah, it's a very rich red.
Yeah.
Fanny and Alexander, in terms of like the house, is very warm, and that's the thing. It's like
Totally.
it has the Christmas feel, but it's like it kind of plays with the typical Christmas themes. You know, it doesn't like do the like, oh, everything's great all the time. It really gets into
The
it.
fighting and
Yeah,
This is interesting. So I've just clicked. I won't tell you what I did, but because it's interesting to compare Fanny and Alexander to other things. I think.
he's comparing them to the other films, Bergman. Or
No.
Letterboxd Top
comparing it
250.
to Dune.
No, I was going to say the first film that Letterboxd says is the most similar to Fanny and Alexander is The Tree of Life.
Wow.
Really?
That's what it says. And then soon after that, it says Boyhood. Boyhood makes more sense.
Yeah,
Boyhood.
the Tree of Life.
But I'm like, do you think maybe because of the religious concepts
Maybe. Oh yeah.
is why?
But they're
the
saying
Tree of Life
completely
is
different
straight
stuff.
up at a religious
But they're saying completely
analysis.
different stuff about it.
Yeah. Do you think it's just that? Just the fact that the
Yeah, I
religion is
wonder
so
if I think
prominent?
that's probably why Letterboxd. I think it'd just be the algorithm has picked up.
Similar nano genres, like they
Yeah.
define within the statistics and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But yeah, I think the bishop is a very interesting character. I think the idea of like this guy who is super stern and like, oh yeah, I'm a goat spiritual guy, but then he's just a massive hypocrite and he's also like just a dickhead.
Yes.
He just sucks.
Yeah, picking battles with
And even like
10-year-old.
his whole family sucks. Like it's just they suck.
The-
And I think the idea of like this religion that's supposed to like, you know, uplift the people,
Free.
and this guy's just like this oppressive tyrant, and he also like he doesn't enjoy living, bro. Like he kind of just sucks.
Bro, no Bergman character.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's
They
true.
all sit there going, oh.
the auntie,
death.
the auntie,
like
of
he
the,
has not lived a great life. This bishop dude.
the priest's other sister, or sorry, the priest's auntie loves living life.
Also, sorry, how how is he allowed to marry? Is that allowed? I mean, it depends on the religion, I guess.
The type of Christianity.
There are some Christian.
No, there's actually a lot of.
denominations that allow
I think most of them do.
I think maybe it's just
the
Orthodox that doesn't.
No, Orthodox. Oh, maybe they don't either.
Do you mean Catholic?
Catholics don't.
Yeah,
But I think
Catholics can't.
I think Orthodox doesn't either. Maybe they do. I can't remember. I don't really care, to be honest. It doesn't really matter.
Well, I know Catholics don't.
Yeah, Catholics
That's
definitely
what
don't.
I know the most.
Yeah, well, that's what I was raised as.
Yeah.
Good Catholic.
Good Catholic boy. Very good Catholic boy.
Oh my god. Altar boy.
Oh, no, I was never that good of a Catholic boy.
None of us were.
I tried my best.
Unwillingly baptized as
I
an
doubt
infant.
that. I don't know. I gotta admit, I'm like,
You're tired. You just want to talk about Dune.
I've talked about Dune so much now. I can't not stop thinking about Dune.
Look, the only other thing I want to
It
talk
was
about.
swag. It was a swag movie.
The one thing, okay, sorry.
Thanks, guys.
Sorry. I'm going to throw this out in the air and maybe someone might catch on to it. But the bishop reminded me of something,
Yeah.
of another character that's in some other show or movie.
Agent Cooper.
No. What? No, but like the
I just thought you
idea
would
of
want to make a Twin Peaks
the idea
reference.
of like an impressive like parent figure who also sucks. I don't know where I'm getting this from.
I vaguely remember. I mean,
I don't know what it
in the
was.
car.
But like, because I obviously have never seen this movie before, but I instantly picked up on like this either influenced this sort of character or this kind of character has existed
Here you go, This
beforehand,
might come up.
and I don't know what it would be.
Give me a second.
Maybe a little bit of like in my brain, a little bit. It reminds me of the Peaky Blinders guy, the goddamn like the police officer.
Oh, Sam Neill's character.
Yeah, they're kind of half similar, but I don't think that's what I'm thinking of in terms of specifically. But the same idea applies to him, where he's also a hypocrite. And he's also like kind of like an oppressive tyrant. Obviously, Peaky Blinders are not doing great things, but
No.
But still.
Tommy Shelby is cool, and that guy.
yeah,
Tommy Shelby slow-mo walks.
yeah. I don't know if it's him that I'm thinking
can't
of,
find anything
because I feel like I'm thinking of it specifically in relation to kids, and maybe it was like a cartoon or something that this idea was picked up in.
I can't.
Campbell.
Yeah, that's his name.
Campbell. Inspector Campbell.
Yeah.
That's right.
But in any case, I don't know. I think it's a really powerful thing.
I can't
Anyway.
find it at all. But the
What were
one
you
thing
gonna
that I
say?
wanted to bring up is the fantasy elements.
Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about that yet.
I
The
think
ghost.
the ghost,
It invokes. What do you call it? Because they're doing. What's the play they're doing? Are they doing?
I can't remember.
I don't know. Because he's the thing is he's playing the ghost in the play, and then he's actually a ghost. That's like the haha.
Oh, the dad. Yeah, that's the ghost. Sorry, I was trying.
Yeah.
I remember the fantasy.
Oscar,
Yeah.
he plays the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
He haunts the place, and people see him.
Or
And sometimes
haunt-
he talks.
Haunting's a strong word. He's very gentle.
No, but you know what haunt? Like he's there.
Yeah,
he's just around.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's only appearing for Alexander, I think. And
No, he
Fanny,
shows-
He's Fanny,
No, the
the wife.
grandmother talks to him. I swear.
Really?
I swear.
I thought it was
I
just the
remember
children.
that scene.
But
I swear that happens. I could be making that up.
no, you're probably right. But the point
She's
is,
like
I feel like
sitting
he's
down.
a guiding figure. He's a so Alexander.
Maybe I'm
is-
misremembering the scene. It's possible that he was like there and then she wasn't actually talking to him. I can't even remember. I
It's
don't
a
know.
long
It's
film
a long
to
movie.
try and recall everything, considering a lot of it's not much happening.
Yeah, it's like
But so you've got the father, which I view as a guiding figure, while Alexander's in conflict with the priest the whole time. His actual father, who's considerably older than the wife, is constantly popping up sort of as a reassurance, like, doesn't ever say anything to Alexander, but it's just like, I'm here. While Alexander's having this conflict with the priest about God and all this stuff.
lying.
Whereas, lying. Good boys tell the truth. Truth delivers. Anyway.
Do you know what the truth is? And he's like, oh, I know that's a silly question. And then he's like, do you know why people lie? And he's like, oh, because I don't want to tell the truth. And he's like, clever answer, but give me the real one, boy. It's so good. Man.
Yeah. But essentially, Alexander also has a conflict with the priest about the God, if I recall.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the antique store, and one of the guys is like, "Oh my God, I'm God!" And it's like, there's that frightening scene of the thing jumping out from the corner. And I guess whether there's a play on the fantasy element of the father, the bishop, and then the puppet, all sort of being a leader. I don't know. I'm kind of stretching here, but I remember being able to tie in those three together while watching the film.
Yeah.
But what I did hear is that in the TV show, the fantasy elements are much more common.
Yeah.
And that they make it much better.
That's the problem, because if you ever think anything's
I've
kind of
heard
underbaked or you're not really sure how it fully connects, it's probably because there was just shit cut out.
And he did say that
Everything
a lot was cut out, was forced to be cut out for time constraints. And I
did read somewhere, I don't remember which article, but it was saying that predominantly the stuff that was cut
fantasy.
was the fantastical
Yeah.
stuff.
And
Now I'm kind of wishing we'd watched the.
well, and I'm going
Sonic
to
version.
kindly say I think it was a bit of an unfortunate choice of a film pick because we're missing so much of it. We're missing 2 hours of it.
Yeah, that is
the
actually
actual cut,
That's
we're
an
missing
important
2
thing to
hours.
point out. We're missing 2 hours of
And
this
so I
movie,
think it's kind of
basically.
unfortunate in that we can't give it a just as a film. We can.
I mean, it's like the.
Just think-
You still get enough.
Yeah, I think-
But I think
yeah.
what the problem is that other than the core bones of the story, all the extra shit, the fantastical stuff, it's like corn kernels that you're given, and you're like, that's interesting, but there's not enough of it for
Gum
you to
and
go,
Dozier,
oh.
bro.
But in the main, but it was made
But I
as
couldn't recommend the uncut version.
no, but it was made as a television show.
Yes.
It was made as a short,
Yes.
essentially,
Yeah.
and it's been cut into a film. It wasn't. Its original purpose wasn't meant to be a film.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just unfortunate that we are missing so much because everything I've read has said it. All it does is add, nothing detracts.
Sure.
In saying that, it's still very,
So it's like
very good.
the Snyder cut. It's like the Bergman cut.
I never watched the Bergman
Give
cut,
me the Bergman
essentially.
cut.
On the
bro.
Bergman cut, bro. Maybe we'll
They'll never release the Bergman cut.
maybe
and
we'll
they
watch
do.
it. Maybe we'll watch it.
So I think I'm going to invite myself over to Nick.
You got to watch Twin Peaks first, so.
What? You guys come over for the long version of Fanny or Twin
I will
Peaks?
be. I want
Twin
to.
Peaks first.
Twin Peaks.
Fuck Fanny and Alexander, bro. Twin Peaks
Hey.
up here, way higher.
Yes.
It's literally called Twin Peaks, bro. There's 2 peaks and it's at both of them. That's how good it is.
What are the trees? What are these trees? These are such interesting trees.
It's just like, bro, what that tree?
On the topic of the cut down of it and stuff, I do think it'd also be a lot more accessible watching it in however many 5 parts. is it?
Probably. You could
5 or
watch
6
like a one
parts?
episode
Yeah.
a night.
I
Well, it's
feel
split
like-
in episodes.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how many episodes.
I think it's 5.
5, yeah. So
Yeah.
an hour episodes. I feel like it's a lot more accessible and it gives you that time to think about what have I just seen.
Yeah.
Then, maybe
Totally.
tomorrow I watch the next. I feel like rather than watching the 3.5 hour cut down version, just TV show is the better way to go about this. If anyone's made it this far into the podcast, and
It is a 2-hour podcast currently.
yeah, and has decided they want to watch it. I'm happy to wrap up Fanny there. I think it's left a bit on the table, unfortunately, but was enjoyable to watch.
It's still a solid as fuck
nonetheless.
film.
Yeah.
And I think we should. I think this movie deserves to watch the longer cut.
Mm-hmm.
So down the track, once we watch Twin Peaks, we'll do the Fanny and Alexander a long cut, and on a different episode, we will tell you what we thought.
Updated ratings.
We might update the rating just for Fanny and Alexander because this is the only movie.
TV show as well.
This is the only film where we've watched a different, not the correct cut.
Yeah.
What about
not the
the
best.
Snyder cut of The Flash? I hear that one's way better.
The Flash.
Bro, I should have picked we should have picked the Snyder cut. That'd have been so funny.
What for?
You know, it's 4 hours. It was.
Are you kidding?
It was 4 hours and 10 minutes.
Well,
it was
on the-
actually excruciating.
Well, on the topic of
Didn't people like it?
Dude, people loved it, bro. But you know what's really interesting as well? I just want to say this. The Snyder cut is now seen as like I don't want to call it a symbol, but like a connection or you know what I mean?
From the audience?
No, whatever. It's now linked to the alt-right.
Oh,
No, I'm not joking.
Why?
It's like considered, it's straight up. There's a show called The Bear,
yeah.
which I love. And in one of the first episodes, one of the main characters runs out to these like sort of not necessarily incels, but they kind of implied they're incels. And he goes, "You 4chan, MAGA, Snyder Cut motherfuckers." And I was like, Snyder Cut? What the fuck? It was just people who wanted to watch a better Justice
What about
League
like the
movie.
people who got angry about Sonic when they like had him designed wrong?
Well, I think that...
Are they alt right? I feel like they're alt left, bro. Those
That
people.
was straight up just nerds, bro.
Yeah,
They
so it's
were just
alt left
"Hey,
is
change
Sonic,
my
alt
video
right
game."
is Snyder Cut.
But I didn't really get it. I was just like, what's the problem with the Snyder Cut?
I think it's probably just the people that it's associated
But yes,
with.
I might recommend the Snyder Cut in a future episode.
But anyway, that wraps that up.
1 second.
Ratings?
Also, I'll give it an 8.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm on an 8 as well.
all in agreement again. 8.
Is that 3
3
films?
for 3?
I think that's 3 for 3. I think that's the first
Wow.
time ever. Hold on.
Wild.
That is the first time ever.
That's got to be.
Did we
not only the first
this.
perfect 10.
We also both watched all of these movies the same amount of times as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. Because we all watched Dune twice.
Yeah. Incredible.
And we'll most likely go see it a third time. Let's just be real.
Well,
We're probably going to see it a third time.
Maybe a 4th.
now that we've given the ratings for Fanny and Alexander, my pick for the month of March
It's June.
June Messiah.
June Messiah.
I wish.
The book. We're going to do
I
our
wish.
own
yeah, the
play.
book.
We'll do
We're
our
writing the
play of
script.
it. Yeah.
Is a Academy Award Best Picture winner.
T.
Midnight Cowboy.
Oh.
Okay. Yep.
I've had it on my watch list for 3 years now,
You know,
based on my father's recommendation.
this is a very bizarre thing, but that phrase, Midnight Cowboy, has been in my brain the last
That's because
week.
you're now into judo or whatever you do.
I don't know how
I
that's
don't see the
connected.
connection.
But
Because judo is Midnight
Jiu-jitsu,
Cowboy is
you
about
mean?
gay people.
That's right, it is.
Jiu-jitsu
It's
is a
about
gay
As
sport.
you keep saying, is gay.
Is very
sport.
gay.
I think it's that. I think
think, yeah, it's like
the homoerotic.
It's like a Twin
connotations.
Peaks sort of thing. You know when he's trying to figure out like who killed the Laura, and it's
Yes.
like Tibet thing.
Yes.
He makes just wild connections. I think that's what it is.
I think Midnight Cowboy is a brainworm from all the homosexual jiu-jitsu shit.
Someone
that's
like
going
is
on.
whispering it into my brain. It's
Someone's telling you, Isaac, I'm your Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah. Anyway, released 1969, directed by John Schlesinger. I don't know. I've butchered that.
It's a
But
pretty
it's
cool
about-
name.
Yeah. A wide-eyed hustler from Texas, hoping to score big with wealthy New York City women.
This
And
is
we'll
the
leave
movie
it at
that I'm Walking Here is from. Oh no, that's not this.
I
Is
think
it?
It is actually.
Is it?
No, I don't think so.
I haven't a
Could be.
clue.
Is it? I
It's
think
got
it is.
Dustin Hoffman and John Voight, so
I'm walking here. It is from here.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Let's leave.
That's all I'm looking forward
Let's
to.
leave today's podcast at that.
Yeah.
Midnight Cowboy. Go watch Dune. Don't watch Driveaway Dolls.
Oh, what are the other 2 films we're doing for the month of March?
That's true.
Kung Fu Panda 4.
Kung Fu Panda 4 with Tenacious D. It's going to be dope.
I'm seeing them in July.
And we're going to do Love Lies Bleeding, which is a new artsy-fartsy thing, crime movie. Looks basically it has the same poster as Infinity Pool, so you know it's going to be dope.
Oh,
Should be interesting.
It literally has like the same thing. It's really weird. We'll show you after. Anyway,
Thank
thank
you
you
all
so
for
much.
listening.
If you were interested in June, we definitely gave that to you.
I can't wait to.
And if you were desperate for the Driveway Dolls discussion,
yeah, what the
then
hell
you
is
probably,
First of all, what the hell is wrong with
you
you?
probably just unsubscribed.
Yeah, I think you were watching the wrong podcast. I'm gonna have fun editing 2 hours of this.
You'll be fine.
Probably
get
just
it?
gonna like skip to like timestamps and just edit that, and that's it.
We'll just do the June
I have a
section and stop
request.
editing.
I have a request.
Yeah.
Can we get a Lisa Nalgaib count going,
count going.
like a little-
Jeez, that's gonna put an extra 2 weeks on the release.
please?
I'm gonna have to actually watch the podcast. Crazy.
Well, then you can let us know if it's any good. But thank you all for listening and have a
Yes,
enjoyable
cheers,
weekend,
guys.
week, or whatever the hell you're doing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bless up to what's the shalul, whatever.
We
that-
should really get
that
spot on.
Allah,
We're gonna
Allah version.
do that.
What?
It's
Yeah.
a knife thing, whatever.
Maybe
it
a
is.
knife, chip, and something.
May
All right.
Blade, chip and shatter. Lighters, guys. Bye.
Goodbye.